Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another Deepest Lore. It's raining pouring here at the lodge. How's the weather doing where you are, Simon?
It's coming down. Yeah, heavy. It's great.
We've got here it's like a classic grey, rainy day here, like steady rain for hours and hours. Love it.
Yeah,
it's kind of annoying for my hot bin though.
Did it reach the desired temperature?
No. Down to 20 in the week that I was away.
Oh dear.
I tried to do the jiggery pokery yesterday to get it back up, but it's been raining pouring today, so it's going to plummet yet again. It's the rain. I don't know what to do about it. I considered it trying to move it like inside, but I think that's too much.
I saw someone said enzymes. You need enzymes.
Well, the next thing I'm going to try is chicken pellets.
Oh yeah,
chicken pellets.
Having welcomed the coming of the end of summer, are you now lamenting it?
I have been hoisted by my own desires.
See, I should be gloating, but I'm just sad for you. The compost we'd all sort of grown to like.
I mean, I'm a little bit like Goldilocks with the weather. I like two sweet spots. One when spring is coming in, and the weather's getting better, but it's still spring, and you have that crisp spring air, the daffodils poking through the snow with the sun out. The flowers are out and it's springtime, but it's not yet summer. And I also like the transition from summer into autumn, kind of September sort of time. I also like it in autumn in general when it's a good weather, but I don't like it when it's rainy and cold. Does that make sense?
Soggy, horrible, damp. Yeah, not a good season.
But I don't like the summer because it's too hot, and there's a lot of pressure in the summer to have forced fun.
Well, there's got to be a bit of a break with these shows because I'm off to Australia to see my mum for 3 weeks, and over there it's just summer. The beginning of summer.
So you're going to be having Barbies and
it's
visiting women called Sheila in jail.
Yes, we'll chuck another prawn on the Barbie. No, it's already about 32 degrees during the day, and this is the cooler end of summer.
Ooh.
So it gets like really bad January, February. It'll be dry. It'll be dry and hot and baking. It won't be like English summer because the light will cease at around 5-6 o'clock, and it'll just maybe 6-7 o'clock, and it'll just go dark, and that'll be it. You won't get the nice summer evening. Yeah.
So it's 8 p.m. It's completely dark, but it's still really hot, like 30 Celsius or something.
It'll be warm. Yeah. Never mind.
Will you see like bluebells there in the spring and daffodils and stuff? Or?
Not really. It's kind of it's by the coast, so it's all kind of spiky sorts of plants. It's all kind of dry. There's nothing. You can't have lawns out there unless you've got masses of money. So most people have native gardens, which is basically the place is built on sand, and you have these kind of brown, crispy plants.
Yeah, I picture like loads of just dry plants, even though they're still alive. They're just dry and crispy and just like almost sizzling, like almost
exactly.
Smoking.
Yeah, in the summer everything's dried out. The grass is dried out. It's all yellow. The actual verdant season is winter, where everything comes back to life and it's green again. So it's kind of a weird reverse of Europe.
Messed up. And everywhere you look, there's like a deadly snake or like a huge scorpion or a really venomous spider. No, I know it's not really like that. But...
No, not so much in the cities.
Wow. So they literally do have back to front weather.
It is, yeah. It is.
Is everything upside down as well?
Yes, it is.
All right. So let's There's a guy in the chat saying, I've been following AA for 4 years. He was more fun before he started banning and intimidation in the chat with ban threat.
Oh, that was excellent.
That is just untrue, isn't it? I mean, I have always been like that towards the chat, even in the days of when I had a high pitched voice in 2017. I was like that.
Yeah.
So it's just untrue.
Did you have a higher voice?
I mean, I think everybody had a higher voice 10 years ago, didn't they?
Okay. Yeah.
You go back to listen to me in 2016, 17, and my voice is at least an octave higher, I would say. You know.
Yeah.
You were like an alto, and now you're like a tenor or something.
Well, I mean, that's what like a decade of cigar smoke and about 3 stone will do.
Yeah. It's added gravitas.
And age, just at being older.
Yeah.
You know? I was in my early 30s at that point. Or in my early 40s. So what do you expect?
Yeah.
I was listening to your comments about you have a certain connection with Xennials, right?
Yes, Xennials. Yeah, I was joking that Gareth Icke had the same childhood as me. Yeah.
So is he? Because I think I'm born in the same year as you. Is Gareth Icke also one of us, as it were? I'm 82 as well.
Yeah, I think I think he would have been in the year above me in school because I think he's prior. I'm September, and I think Gareth Icke is like maybe spring of that year, so he would have been in the year above in school.
In the year as well,
huh?
Is Carl Benjamin the same age as you?
No, he's a little bit older, but PJW is an 82 vintage.
And Bo of the Lotus Eaters is 81, I think.
Matt Gates is an 82 vintage.
Huh.
And he is probably the best American politician. So, you
know, I still think an Anatomy of the Xennial video is a wise investment. It could be evergreen content.
I'll do it at some point.
Go into the Boomer Truth Regime playlist, something like that. You know,
I'll do it at some point. I have to figure out the algo is hard to. Everything's algorithmic these days, Simon. Which makes it difficult to predict how evergreen content will go. I mean, maybe I need to because within YouTube you have to set the category, and I'm set to news at the moment, whereas the channel always used to be set to education. Maybe I should set it back to education. But, so yeah, but I do think that setting affects like who ends up seeing it. Yeah.
I've got a question, if you don't mind.
Yes, go on.
Matt Gaetz made me think of this, right? Because Matt Gaetz obviously is one of the best US politicians, I think so as well. And like obviously he's not afraid to criticize Israel or some aspects of the Israel lobby and stuff.
Yeah.
And in your videos against the right, or sort of from a centre left perspective, have you done one on Israel or Zionism yet? Because that seems to be a sort of glaring fault with the right.
No, I haven't. But that's large part of the reason why, because I see it as basically an impenetrable wall at this point for us. People are just thick, I mean, I even did a video today, on banning the Muslim headscarf and saying like, well, like, what is the actual aim? What are you trying to do with that? Right? Because if the aim is to increase deportations or to encourage them to leave, that just isn't a ramp to that happening, because they've done it in other European countries, and it has not led to a mass exodus of Muslims. So in fact, what you're doing is you're just helping them to integrate and blend in and upholding the liberal order. But,
as if by design, right? I mean, it is what you would suggest if you wanted them to stay, I think.
Exactly.
It's a terrible policy.
Exactly. But this, you see, is sent, like Thomas Sowell called it, thinking beyond stage one. But the current right, as it stands today, is simply incapable of doing anything beyond like level 0 boomer slot, basically.
That's thinking of like, let's try and deprive them of certain aspects of the religious fundamentalism or whatever. That comes out of that kind of like secularist thinking and obviously integrationist thinking. There's nothing to do with nationalism or defending the nation or defending tradition or anything. It's a set. I mean, I see that as a centre left thing myself. It's like the anti-right left. But anyway,
it's Gordon Brown. It's Gordon Brown.
Yeah, right. So Gordon Brown is the guy who we got like in Britain anyway. Like civic nationalism was promoted by him more than anyone else. Like, he said so himself. We need to promote civic nationalism instead of ethnic nationalism to get people to fit in and to get rid of the problems. You know.
Yeah. Well, now it's being pushed. I forgot something in that video that I released though, which I was kicking myself afterwards. The specific burqa aspect of it is obviously being driven by facial recognition. They're like, well, if we can get the right to do this, that's if you're thinking from Tony Blair's point of view, it's better for the right to push for it because it solves that issue. Because if they're all wearing face coverings, you can't do facial recognition, and that's what they want to do, isn't it? Ultimately, so. God. Anyway, before we get going, I'll remind everyone, do buy courses at Academic Agency. Buy the new book, Applied Elite Theory, in all good bookstores now. If you get it directly from Imperium Press, I think more money ends up going to us, so do that. So that is out. But we're on episode 2 of Can't Get You Out of My Head. But one of the things I've always done on Deepest Law is looked at propaganda and advertising. And I happened to quote tweet the Royal Marines earlier, and now I'm getting spammed by the Royal Marines. They are on a major, and I mean major, recruitment drive at the moment. And as two gentlemen with some interest in military matters, Horace from a historical perspective, Simon from a
special forces, special forces, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, know a bit about.
So I know that you both have an interest in this. I want your assessment on what the Royal Marines are doing in these adverts. There are 3 different ones here, and honestly, it's interesting. Let's have a little watch. This is the first one.
As Royal Marines, we trace our history all the way back to 1664. Ever since then, time and again, we have adapted, transformed, and innovated to meet the needs of the time we're in. But always, at the beating heart of everything we do, it is our war-fighting ability that has defined us. Underpinning all of that, our values and standards have seen us through.
This is the Hans Zimmer soundtrack, Simon. Menacing drone.
Excellence, integrity, self-discipline, humility, courage, determination, unselfishness, cheerfulness in the face of adversity. These are the very foundation of the Royal Marines' identity. They are not just words. What we say is less important than what we do. We must live these values every day. They remain central to the Corps' success. Leadership is key to this, and in the Royal Marines, leadership is expected from the youngest Marine to the Commandant General, and this will drive the success on the battlefield.
It is our leadership excellence that has enabled our people to transform with agility again and again. But it is also the courage of the Royal Marines to be able to leap at opportunity when it presents itself, built on the foundation of our history but not held back by what has gone before, more standing on the shoulders of the giants who precede us, stepping off with the courage that the quality of our people will see us through. We are 361 years old today, Royal Marines. To all of you, to all of the Corps family, wherever you are, I wish you a very happy birthday.
Well, what strikes you about that advert, gentlemen?
Can people in the chat suggest? I didn't notice anything. Can people in the chat maybe suggest what AA might be alluding to here? I'm joking. One of the guys was heavily tanned. I noticed he could have possibly been half Indian or something. But yeah.
They were so two things to mention. Well, three things to mention, really. One, pretty much everybody was a white man in the video. Two, an unironic celebration of British tradition, and specifically British military tradition, with not a hint of apology for it. And number three, an emphasis on the quality of the people, the quality of the actual people they're recruiting. Very interesting advert, in my view. And I couldn't help but wonder, does this mean we're going to war? Because they're serious.
You're right. It's very much sort of stirring the heart with, you know, the ancient conflicts and the lineage of the military. And another thing you sort of specifically notice about is the way the advert's coded. Is a lot of it has changed since the last time I saw any recruiting adverts, because they're using a lot of sort of TV tropes here in the way that it's kind of a longer form advert. Reminds you a bit of a sort of, you know, you get these kinds of dramas, films, featuring things like, you know, the military in these kind of dynamic situations. And obviously it's also aimed towards, you know, computer game sort of expectations, you know, because the old style military adverts would have the soldiers in, you know, relatively traditional conventional uniforms, and what you're seeing is the kind of special forcesization of the military, because they've got all the gear now, which is very different from how it used to be. It's very much like special forces were dressing 15, 20 years ago, you know, in all the kit that you would call Gucci kit, you know, the kind of all the bits and pieces with the sort of the plate carrier body armors and the night vision on the helmets and stuff. So they're going for the kind of imagery brand by focusing on the hardware as well as on the sort of nostalgia.
Now, Simon, does it matter that this is specifically Royal Marines versus the regular army? Like, I mean, you know, that's elite, like elite advertising or something, but
there's always been a thing of when the sort of the SAS started, the original sort of special forces unit, there was a bit of envy and hostility from other units in the army. But gradually, obviously this is a Navy unit, but gradually the other units in the British military sort of kind of wanted to come closer to that sort of cachet of special forces-ness. So becoming more elite, becoming, you know, more sort of high profile, and a lot of the stuff they're doing there is quite. Some of it's similar to previous campaigns, but it's a lot more dynamic, a lot more kind of, you know, you're playing a first-person shooter game.
Now there's more. There's actually two more that have been, like, my timeline's been spammed by this. Here is the second one, much in the same style. Another thing that struck me is that the sorts of, like, you know, there was that woman in the classroom. She was like an Indian woman. I assume she was Indian, a teacher, standing with the British values behind her. Okay, 5 British values. It was I can't remember what they are now. Tolerance, like, I don't know. I can't remember what they were now, but it was like tolerance, mass immigration. I don't know. Like, I'll see if I can find what those 5 British values were. But these are noticeably not those values. They are literally drawing on the values that they would have had 100 years ago, 200 years ago, type thing. The same words, the same, you know, they're much more the sort of thing that Sir Alex Ferguson would look for in his football players than these kind of liberal, kind of wishy-washy values. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
So anyway, let's have a look at the second one.
Mm.
You come across arrogant. You come across cocky. That isn't what the Royal Marines is about.
The opposite to humility, being humble, is ego. And in my line of work, ego will get you killed.
That kind of strive for perfection and keep working towards staying concurrent was largely what's kept us so successful.
They were doing well. Do you see him? Quaid. He's the first one in, but even he is kind of Craig Charles coded for us. He's more kind of like, I don't know. Even he doesn't seem like that bad to me. But anyways, carry on.
Successful is understanding that, you know what, somebody out there could be doing it better. Can we learn from them? Can we develop ourselves a little bit more? Humility is where that comes from.
Don't tell people how good you are. Show people how good you are.
If we are going to pass you out into our force, you're going to need to be more humble.
No one is a Royal Marines commander before they join. Those are skills you have to kind of obtain, and by the validation of turning up, having the courage to go through the program really is the first step to that. The 360 years of history standing on the shoulders of giants to get where we are today doesn't mean we rested on our laurels.
Go and do the hard stuff. Show people how hard you are. Don't tell them how hard you are. And there's a big difference there.
You can instruct with methods that will realign someone's humility. We give a lot of freedom to the section commanders to do so.
But a job for everyone is a job for no one. We expect the high standards here. We turn out the high standard soldiers, but it does mean that people have to be willing to accept the challenge. Now, some people think they can, some people think they can't. But there's only one way of knowing, and that's coming here and finding out.
Now, do you think this is going to be successful, this advert?
Difficult to know. I mean, it's appealing to an idea that, you know, it's not just, we don't just want 18-year-old hulks who, you know, want to learn to be trained killers. We want you to pass through a sort of a gatekeeping mechanism, which is to do with elements of character now, and you know, setting it up as a challenge, you know, to become humbled by you know what you do, and you know, yes, you work as a team player, but this idea that, you know, it's kind of sort of asking you to, you know, for you know, saying that the process is actually about learning a kind of new kind of obedience, which obviously you do in the military anyway, but this is setting it as a kind of abstract sort of character requirement rather than, you know, can you get on, can you pass the physical requirements, can you do the business, so to speak.
It's a world away from come and join the army and you'll get to see the sights, which I remember they were doing a couple of years ago. This is like, because you remember that whole cell, and it was all like women enjoy, like literally taking pictures of you know, heritage sites and things like that. One of the things I will say is that the comments on Twitter in particular were brutal to these, but seeing those comments also made me think, I don't know, like the Royal Marines are just going to turn around to those comments and be like, well, these sorts of guys are never going to make it. Basically, these are the guys we're weeding out, because there's a horrible, and this is another tendency I dislike on the right, Horus, right? And it actually happened yesterday when somebody in the chat was saying, well, Shakespeare was a black woman and all that sort of stuff, where they've so inhibit the culture wars, right? They so inhibit the mind frame of fighting the left all the time that in a way they become worse. In a way that, like, now you can't mention Shakespeare with one of them saying, "Oh, you didn't know he was black, or didn't you know he was a woman?" But you see, I mean, almost exclusively the comments hammering the Royal Marines were coming from the right, okay, and you know they were basically kind of like, they were kind of treating it as if it was Keir Starmer, right, something like that. But then I like, part of me thinks, yeah, I'm not sure, like, is it like, should he be running down the Royal Marines as a patriot? I don't know, like I'm conflicted by it, but I find it an odd dynamic, you know.
It's just, isn't it a reflex assumption that the Marines will, in reality, not this advert, but the reality of it will be more woke, and you'll be DEI trained before you can join and all this stuff, you know. It's just negative assumptions, isn't it? I mean, it's not like anyone's actually experienced being in the Marines who's saying that.
Well, I mean, I have no. See, this is the thing. Simon will probably know better than I would. My assumption is that the Marines have always just been properly hardcore, right?
That they're
absolutely. I would think so. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, the Commando course is one of the toughest selections that you'll find.
I assume the standards that, you know, of what you have to do to join have, if they've been relaxed at all, barely, right? It will still be one of the hardest things, the hardest core to get into in the world, I would imagine.
And that's why there are no women in these adverts, right?
Yeah, and also like we saw the guy who was like mixed race, I guess, and like I'm sure he's a fine soldier. Like, but you know, like I assume most people in the country who encounter like men, you know, men of other races who are like servicemen for Britain, you have a different kind of respect for them, right? You generally like don't want to deport them, for instance. You know, and see them as heroes and patriots. So yeah, I expect the standards are really high. I just noticed as well that the officers that we do see talking there, 3 or 4 of them, or veterans, they all seem articulate but common. There was no emphasis on the poshos, whereas I imagine a lot of the armed forces, the poshos are in charge.
Yeah. Well, there's one more of these adverts that span my timeline, so we might as well watch it. And then there's one other video I want us to watch. So there we go. It also strikes me that they're making a big deal of it being the birthday, but it's the 361st, but it's not even like a particularly round number. It's just an excuse to launch this campaign.
Yeah. It's creating it like a sort of fear of missing out kind of thing, isn't it?
So there's one more video I want to play. And the reason I want to play it is because when this came across my timeline, I genuinely couldn't tell if it was real or not. But apparently this is real, and I want everybody to watch it because something about the whole thing struck me as being surreal. Let's have a little watch.
Good evening, folks. Now, would you look at this? This is a letter I got from the police earlier today, and it says they've chucked out the entire daft investigation, claiming I allegedly bribed voters with ice cream, of all things, on Bowling Day. And I'll tell you why they chucked it out. Because it was absolute nonsense. It was a sham from the get-go. And more than obviously, a dirty smear to try to drag me down. And I'll tell you what, it's fallen apart. It was always about to fall apart. And here's the real kicker. I can actually reveal it was the Labour Party behind this entire charade.
No, I'm not going to play it all. But have you noticed the Faragian mannerisms of this young man? Right? He's I mean, watch this bit again. This is literally word for word what Farage would say, and the body language and everything. Just watch this again.
Because it was absolute nonsense. It was a sham from the get-go, and more than obviously a dirty smear.
The bit where he said, "Oh, I have to say,
daft investigation claiming I allegedly bribed voters with ice cream, of all things, on Bowling Day." And I'll tell you why.
I'm sure Farage uses that little phrase. It's kind of... Is there a reform school?
It's kind of like he's been watching Farage. He's learning how Farage kind of does the setup of the terrible situation, and then he'll do a little break and he'll do a comment on it, and he'll probably say, like Farage, isn't it funny? And then he'll do his kind of little critique of what's going on, PC gone mad, etc.
So obviously the other thing that strikes one watching this is that he's obviously very young, this guy. He's a counsellor. He's a reformed counsellor. Right? He's young, really young. I think he's not even in his 20s yet. I think he's like 19 or something like that. But like within, while I was watching it, other than the fact that it's weird and seems like a parody, but is actually real, within reform, is Farage going to be happy at Farage Mini-Me's being in the part, like, because he's such a control freak and an ego? Is Farage happy with rogue councillors doing this sort of thing?
Maybe if he sees them differently, he sees them as franchise managers for his. I think this young guy's in Leicestershire or something. I remember him coming up at the time because of his youth, and I saw the story about him selling ice cream somewhere as well. So it's like he is kind of the mini-me. He is kind of adopting the style, the mannerisms, and the kind of precocious sense of exasperation with everything, aping Farage's kind of style of, would you believe it? This is what they're doing now. And really, I suppose as long as he stays in his lane with that stuff, and he can replicate the Farage franchise, and others can, maybe Nigel will be happy with that. They stay in their lane, in the provinces, and they don't come close to the centre.
Given that Reform are set to win 425 seats, I don't know if this young man's going to run, but if this is like the kind of general sort of person who's going to become a Reform MP, watching those Marines ads, like these are the people who are going to be like in charge of the Marines. Are they going to be able to? I still don't really understand what's going to happen if Reform like become the government. Where are they going to get 425 MPs the system is all right with, or is it literally going to be this dude?
God knows.
It's a logistical issue, right?
You've seen the quality of Labour backbenchers now. Like we're talking that minus experience, minus age.
Yeah, minus any history of being a party.
I mean, maybe he'll go for the kind of the cadre of sort of small businessmen, but there you tend not to get a lot of political nuance. You'll get a lot of bluff and a lot of bluster, and a lot of, like the adverts, leaning on and relying on, quoting history, as it were, as a substitute for, political nous in the now. It'll just be sort of playing the hits of what we used to be like, and didn't Maggie do well to sort us out? And can we go back to that, please? And of course we know, reheated Thatcherism isn't going to be what we need right now, unless there's a sort of really incredibly strong reindustrialization policy or something to actually create mass secure employment.
May I ask, what was that flag on the right, on his left?
I assume it's the local council flag.
Okay. I've got another question as well, just about said about the Marines adverts. What war do you think war with Russia is what that's aimed at preparing for?
I can only assume it's Russia, that they've got it. That Britain is going to take the lead jointly with France in upholding the Ukrainian end of that war, as America pivots.
I could not hate these people more. I hate the NATO people and all that just as much as I hate the pro-immigration people. They are such filth. Like war with. Are you fucking mad? Like anyway.
This is why I have a video next week coming out on because I remember I got back and my parents were watching the North Korean military parade. It was bizarre. I was like, what the hell's going on here? But then I sat and watched it for like an hour, and I was like, wow, this is some discipline here, right? Because they're really disciplined, right? There's a lot of unity in the North Korean army, and it's big, right? There's a lot of them. And I was watching it thinking, man, if anybody's going to take these on, that's going to be a bloodbath. It's going to be it's going to take some doing, right, to fight the North Korean army. And when I posted it, the instinct of a lot of the same people whose instinct was to have a go at the Royal Marines was to scoff at and mock the North Korean army, saying, "Oh, we take them easily. We take them easily."
Well, this is the thing. The British Army, the British military, has prided itself on a sense of we're small, but we have the expertise. Whereas on the other side, those pesky commies, they just throw a lot of bodies at the thing, and that's how they eventually overwhelm you. But I mean, it did work for the Russians.
But that is what happened in the Korean War. That's how the Korean War was turned back in favor of the North in the early stages, right?
Yeah.
Like the Chinese, with complete disregard for casualty numbers, just used the mass they had.
I mean, I was just looking at them, and it's like, I mean, the two things that struck, well, the three things that struck me. The discipline was pretty impressive, like compared to the Trump parade, compared to any marching I've ever seen. They are like properly like clockwork, man. Second thing was just how like the same they all are. It's like you've just copy pasted the same man over and over again, right? And the third thing was the unity. I don't think they were putting it on. I think there's a genuine like unity between like the dear leader, the officers, and the grunts. I don't think they're faking it. I think it's really like maybe it's call it brainwashing, whatever. But they've achieved. I think they call it Juche or something. Juche.
You're pretending not to know. You're a Juche supporter now. Being on.
But like as a serious point, like in an actual war, they're going to be fanatical. They're not going to care, and also they're not going to care about like human rights or anything. They're just going to or their own lives or anything. They're just going to have that kind of I guess you'd call it asabaya, Simon, right?
And because they do these massive military parades and formations, they've got a very clear, visible image in their minds of mass and scale behind them. Where we obviously still kind of, the sort of British military ethos is very much coming down to, your regiment and fighting for the guy next to you and that sort of stuff. And it can become very sort of individuated and parochial, whereas with them, it's the size of the country that they're thinking of.
I find it, though, a little bit, the word is unheroic, right? For people's attitude to be like, yeah, but we got big bombs and F-15s. So therefore, we've got the better machines. Therefore, we'll win. We've got the better tech, because it just doesn't like what war plays out like that. What war plays out a little well? They had the better tech, therefore they won. I don't think any war that just plays out exactly in that way. And we've seen like recent examples of where the side that doesn't have the tech advantage ultimately comes, like Taliban. How the hell did they win? Or like the Houthis, who the Americans have been bombing the shit out of for the past 3 years, and they're still there. So I just don't know. Like, I guess my point is that why does everybody have the default assumption or the default emotional response to mock North Korea or Russia or China? The Chinese army get the same as well. The Chinese army is routinely mocked by Westerners, but like, what's that based on? Why do they mock it? Why do they think that it'd just be a cakewalk, or is that just fear? It's a genuine question.
Yeah.
A bit further back in 1905, people thought the Japanese would never attack Russia, and then they did, and they thrashed them. It's like there's a certain complacency about the third world still, isn't there? I mean, the developing world, like. They're not really capable, no matter how much they put together, no matter how impressive they look, and how good their choreography is, and their drilling. In battle, they melt morale-wise, but I don't know if that's true anymore. Yeah,
I just don't see it. I just don't see the morale failure being on the North Korean side in any conflict. Like seeing
when ISIS suddenly burst out in Iraq and Syria, and that was 2014. A lot of much was written at the time about why the Iraqi army, which had been obviously quite well supplied and organized by like Western military commanders and stuff and trained well, and that just totally failed and just retreated and fled before ISIS, and took months and months to drive them out of like one quarter of one city and stuff. And it's really pathetic. And apparently, like Arab culture and clan loyalties and stuff just cuts through anything you try and do, and you just. I don't know. So far, it seems impossible to organise a proper drilled and genuinely disciplined Arab army. But
only Glab managed it, apparently.
Right, and maybe it can be done. I don't know, but like, I don't think that's true of North Korea and China. When you see North Korean defectors or people who've been reintroduced to members of their family on the southern side. Sometimes they're like, there's North Koreans like Jeonmi Park who escaped, and she just, spends the rest of her life like talking about the horrors of it. But there are people who, they're allowed to meet there and reconcile with their like family members, and they choose not to because they genuinely do believe in the North Korean state, and they don't have any desire to encounter the outside world at all. So there will be, the same in the Soviet Union. There are genuinely like true believers among the population. I don't know how many. In the Eastern Bloc in Eastern Europe, there was the same as well. There was like, among the Stakhanovite labourers, there's people who really, really do smash their production norms and targets and stuff, and they really believe in it.
You see, increasingly, I find that the response from the West to all of these things is just cope, basically. I mean, I found the same thing when I was bringing up manufacturing capacity. Recently, I was talking about, and again, I'll have a video out next week where I talk about UK manufacturing capacity versus Iranian manufacturing capacity, despite the fact they've been under sanctions for the past 40 years, 50 years. Okay, and what I'm saying is, well, actually, the effect of being cut off from the Western global markets is that you have to become autarkic. You have to actually develop the capabilities yourself, train the engineers yourself. And in pure economic terms, you have to develop the fixed capital in order to do manufactures, right? And we've seen it play out in this war with Russia and Ukraine, where the Western powers are supplying Ukraine with weapons, and Russia is literally being supplied by Iran and North Korea, right? And the manufacturing capacity of the Russian, North Korean, Chinese, Iranian side has been superior to the NATO side. And yet, even in the face of this, I've still got people saying, oh, well, the thing is, we've got more GDP, we've got more liquid capital, which are basically just like factories in potential. But it still takes like a decade to build some of these factories to get the supply chains up and running.
Yeah, they have it now. They have it now.
They've got it now. Yeah,
we have a just in time procurement system, and that maybe it's not going to. I mean, I can only go back to Uncle Joe on this. You know, quantity has a quality all of its own.
I'm not sure if that should be attributed to Stalin. Actually, I read that from Trotsky, who hated Stalin.
Oh well, happy to be corrected.
So I think it goes back further as well.
Oh no, it's haram. If it was Trotsky, it's a bad maxim.
Oh well.
You need to.
But I don't know if it was his. Simon. I think it may have come from like Hegel or something, or someone in between Hegel and Marx, or someone between Marx and Lenin.
Who did say it? Quantity has a quality all of its own. Or something.
I have a feeling it's one. I have a feeling it's one of those ones that's true, irrespective.
Yeah, apparently. It was Napoleon who said it. I think Stalin quoted Lenin or Stalin quoted Napoleon.
Maybe
Lenin quoted Napoleon and then Stalin quoted Lenin.
Right.
Yeah. I thought they got it from Lenin, but I didn't know he got it from Napoleon. If we're about to start the documentary, I just wanted to mention as well, Hero Quest was never really a Games Workshop game. Advanced Hero Quest was made by Games Workshop.
Right. Well, maybe that's what I was asking for. Maybe like.
And there was also. Okay. I never played Advanced. I had Hero Quest as well. So I was classic Xennial. Hero Quest was great as well. Loved it.
Yeah, me, you, and Gareth Ike sitting around playing Hero Quest. I was the evil wizard, of course, because I had to be Morcar.
Kids will never know. Yeah, but Advanced Hero Quest was like, I guess, the adult version of it. Not adult like that, but and there was also Space Quest or something, but nobody played that because there was also Space Hulk, and then there was also, you could be Space Marines and Gene Stealers in Warhammer 40k as well. But Hero Quest was more sold in just Smiths or toy shops and stuff. It's like an entry level. It's really good, great game.
Apparently, Stalin did say it in a speech in 1931. To the Communist Party Central Committee, and it was published in Pravda, where he said quality has a quantity all of its own. So if it is attributed to Stalin, he did actually say it, although it basically the same sentiments are found in Goebbels, in Napoleon, and in Hegel, as you mentioned. So
I can see questions coming in now on these computer games in the chat. It just reminds me, Adam Curtis actually had some opinions on this recently. I think I can there was a recent interview about this where he said, let me just play it in. Hold on.
Personally, my favourite episodes of UO were the ones where they just did crosswords, talked about 90s computer games, or the one where Morgoth talked about jelly and pork pies. That was fantastic. Although I didn't like episode 107 about Filthy Frank, which was simply disgusting and unnecessary.
That little pause he did there was great. That was really well studied. Like the AI has actually studied his foibles.
Yeah,
that was really good.
Wow.
Oh, it's good now. Yeah.
All right.
But Hero Quest was a board game, by the way, or tabletop.
Who do you play as? The barbarian, the wizard, the elf, or the dwarf?
I think probably the barbarian, but I can't remember. Yeah, it's the blunt barbarian, I think.
Barbarian only had a mind rating of 2, so if he came up against a chaos sorcerer who could do mind spells, he was a bit fucked. Barbarian. But in DM Evil Wizard School, they actually teach you, like, don't be ruthless and just kill all the players straight away. You have to actually, like, something you have to learn if you're a dungeon master. People are asking, did you play Street Fighter 2, Horus?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Who did you play as?
Well, if I could, Bison, because he could do that thing that no one could defend against. But
the Psycho Crusher.
Yeah, just dives through the person. Yeah, just dives across the screen. But like, you couldn't choose Bison usually, unless you're on the arcades. I don't know. I liked Guile, I guess.
Guile was good. Guile was good in Street Fighter. I was a Ryu player.
Guile had a long reach. I like the long reach. It's good.
He had a very good combo in the original. got into like he had like a four fierce punch combo that ended with you dive in, do an uppercut, like a little medium punch, and then you could do a sonic boom. If you could pull that off, it's like half your energy bar gone. Anyway, let's start.
Just one last word here.
Thanks for tuning into this latest review of my series Can't Get You Out of My Head. But if you think this is going to be another one of those 45-minute banter sessions talking about 90s football, Stuart Lee routines, compost, and how much we hate James O'Brien, you've got another thing coming.
He should have said the last line in the voice.
Latest review of my series Can't Get You Out of My Head.
He should have said the last line in the voice of Rob Halford, I think.
You got another thing coming.
Okay.
That was on exactly 45 minutes, by the way, Simon.
Have you ever been to a labour exchange? You know, the last time I went there, I was paid my money by a Sikh. A Sikh sitting there with his turban and a bangle on his hand. Now, I was 3 years with the Indian Army in India. I was 3 years in India in civilian life. I got on well with Sikhs, Hindus, the whole lot of them. But to walk into a British labour exchange and find you're being paid out your money by a Sikh, these are the people that...
I have to ask this. Sorry, it's me who's paused it. As a friend of the working man, I'm ashamed to say I don't know what is a labour exchange.
It's what the job centre used to be called.
Right. Okay. So how is he getting paid at the labour exchange? Like, how did that work? Because the job centre typically doesn't give a payout, does it? Or was he getting dole money?
I'll have to take a punt on this because I don't know the strict demarcation, but I believe in those days the labour exchange acted as a combination, of supplying welfare benefits and about looking for work. I could be wrong.
So he's getting dole from a Sikh. It's basically what's happening here. Yeah.
I think it was the dole. I think in nascent welfare state days, where it was sort of very bitty and half, like labour exchanges were a voluntary idea to help people just find work, just meet employers and stuff. Right. But at some point it became incorporated into the state. I think this is right. And then it became a place where the dole was given out. Yeah. So job centres also became like unemployment, what's it called? Unemployment benefit places as well. I think that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in my small way, I help train and educate. To go to a labour exchange is not a very edifying experience at all. You change into your old clothes to go to the labour exchange. But you've got to go.
Edgar Mittelholzer had come to England in the 1950s from British Guiana, and he had become a best-selling novelist. What Mittelholzer wrote about was violence, the violence and the racism that had been at the heart of the European empires. Mittelholzer believed that it still haunted the minds of those who had ruled the empires. One of his most famous stories, My Bones and My Flute, is about a group of colonialists who travel up a river into the jungle in Guyana. They are searching for the remains of a giant slave rebellion in the past, guided by an old manuscript. But anyone who reads the manuscript starts to hear the distant sound of a flute, and they change. They become possessed by something that is reaching out from the jungle and working its way into their minds. It is the anger and the fear of the slave owner who put down the rebellion, and it will not let them escape. And Mittelholzer himself became angry with England. He saw it as a decaying, corrupted country.
I think we've reached the stage, when we have become so soft, so effete, but to use it little words, so effete, that we feel that, well, even criminals must be multicolored.
And you feel so strongly that you're prepared to go as far as to say that there are human beings who should be categorized as vermin.
Exactly. Well, anyone who is...
In the name of anti-race, for the name of anti-racism, people need to be categorized as vermin, right?
I would just say this is one of those moments where you have to overcome your low IQ bigotry. Mittelholzer is a really interesting figure, and he was extremely right-wing.
It sounds like it.
He absolutely he believed in innate racial differences. In his books, I mean, he was kind of. It seems like he felt he was effectively suppressed towards the end of his career. But his book that was mentioned there, My Bones, My Flute, is thought to be sort of a classic of what's called a Caribbean Gothic genre. It's kind of a very sort of M.R. James conceit, you know, finding these sort of cursed artifacts that sort of link the finder with the unquiet ghosts of the land. You know, that's a very classic sort of English novelistic trope in that way. But his subsequent books, you know, he very much emphasized things like, you know, vitalist lineage in families, strong-willed patriarchs, things like that. And you know, the people who were sort of indigenous characters in his books were kind of reduced to being subservient roles. You know, he sort of romanticized the colonial bloodlines, you know, of Europeans. He defended the white South Africans in the time of apartheid. You know, he didn't like racial mixing of any kind. He particularly excoriated the liberals in the West. He called them the wood rotters, you know, as in they would rot, you know, the country away if they could. And essentially he didn't like the kind of political permissiveness, the social permissiveness and political idealism of things like CND that was creeping at the time, socialism. You know, he hated laziness, he hated the welfare state. And as you see there, he absolutely thought violent offenders should be just wiped out. He was a sort of Creole mix of Swiss, German, and Guyanese roots. And he was very much, as Adam Curtis says, he was kind of disappointed that England was kind of appearing to be on the slide in moral fibre terms.
So what you're saying, Simon? He was a sensible centre left.
He was. I'm just saying. So he is a very interesting guy. He's very difficult to find much information on him. So his suspicion that he was suppressed, it sort of feels quite true. You know, I mean, he was literally arguing for whites in Rhodesia, you know, the books are probably a bit tricky to find now as a result. But it sounded like, let's say, he was just very robust. Yeah, he said about the Boers in Africa, he said, but for them, the Africans would still be running savage in the bush and killing and eating each other. The Boers are simply birds of passage out to exploit the country and move on. Mm.
Wow, okay. Let's see where this goes then.
Guilty of violence to the human person and property should be considered as human vermin and eradicated. I know it's a violent thing to advocate, but I can't see any other cure to the crime problem.
Every evening.
He sounded a little bit like well-known classical liberal Herbert Spencer in his later years. But also, I mean, he's famous for advancing the ideas of social Darwinism, or what has been called. But, I mean, I remember reading Herbert Spencer when I was writing Defenders of Liberty, and literally Spencer just argued, Herbert Spencer, not Dickie Spencer, right, arguing that the sanitation system in London should not be publicly funded because it would cause the underclass to reproduce. And this would be non-beneficial because why do you want them to breed? So it's very similar mindset, really.
Yeah, he was very anti-egalitarian. And they say he had a sort of pseudo-mystical conservatism, which sort of blended racial essentialism and a romanticized view of hierarchy. So maybe Evolian indeed.
He sat with his wife in his house in Surrey, listening to the music of Wagner.
That's what I do every night. I'm only joking.
Until one night, Mittelholzer walked up the hill by his house, poured paraffin over himself, and set himself alight.
Oh!
What?
He burned to death. the anger and the fear had reached out to the colonized too.
It's a little bit hardcore.
Very much. Very much. A lot of his novels featured characters killing themselves, almost all of them.
And this guy was a mixed, I mean, according to Wikipedia, he was a mixed European, his name comes from Swiss German.
Yeah.
And other
Guyana. Yeah.
But, and like partly Afro-Caribbean as well.
Yes. Yes. Well, Guyana sees itself as sort of part of the British Caribbean.
It's really unusual hearing someone with a Caribbean accent who's not like laying into us and having a go at us, you know.
Yes.
I'm sure that's not a fair representation of the Caribbean, but in this country, people with Caribbean accents.
Well, I mean, the way Curtis sets it up, you think it is going to be the same sort of accusatory tone, a bit like Michael de Freitas. Although, you know, in a sense, you know, Michael de Freitas embodied an amount of belief in and you know, love for and obeisance to the mother country, which he felt was kind of cruelly thrown back in his face. Whereas Mittelholzer comes and he's like, "You're not hardcore enough." You know?
Yeah, that is unusual.
He voted Conservative, but he only said that was for want of something better.
God, that's tragically familiar.
He hadn't yet developed super advanced strategy of of like, I don't know, championing Michael Foot or something like that.
Hey, by the way, I back you on your call about Katie Lamb the other day. Yeah, there's no good ones. 0 seats.
No good Tories.
No good ones.
In 1966, engineers monitoring Chinese television from a mountain in Hong Kong began to realize that something unusual was happening in Beijing. China was sealed off from the rest of the world. But what they saw were hundreds of thousands of people streaming in from other cities and the countryside. By August the 11th, 1.5 million people had assembled in Tiananmen Square. Most of them were students or schoolchildren. Then, Mao Zedong appeared on the balcony above them. Mao Zedong and his wife Jiang Qing had unleashed a new force in China. These were what Mao called the little devils of youth. He told them that they were going to save the revolution. Their job was to go and seek out the demons and the monsters who were corrupting the revolution. No one should be safe, he said. They should all be torn down and smashed to pulp.
See, when you watch this, right, it's not that much of a leap to imagine that the regimes of the West use this strategy less overtly, but they still try to do it through their own counter gangs, the BLMs and Antifas and the kind of the youth. Do you remember the youth quake?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Before, I wonder if this is part of an active strategy on behalf of Uniparty to try to
galvanize the zeal of the young.
Zeal of the young against the corrupt boomercons. Something like this to keep the revolution on board, because it's basically very similar strategy, and the Western left have been obsessed with Mao or Maoism in one shape or form since the late 60s, basically since May 68. They've been very Maoist. So
I once knew a doctor when I worked in the NHS in a hospital. He freely admitted when he was at Oxford, because he'd been at Oxford, that he had been an informant for Special Branch, informing on Maoist students.
So interesting.
Yeah, and he was just very, very liberal, kind of guy.
The new revolutionaries gave themselves a name: the Red Guards. Jiang Qing now had great power. She saw herself as equal to Mao.
Now that is a dangerous thing to think. Right, I don't know what happens, Simon. But I'm going to say that this is a dangerous belief to have in Mao's China.
There can only be one, as in Highlander.
But she was convinced that the threat to the revolution also came from inside people's minds. She knew that even though China had gone through a revolution, little had changed inside the heads of millions of the people, including those in power. They still believed in a rigid hierarchy. She had been scorned as a woman by the other revolutionaries around Mao. They had done anything they could to stop her. Jiang Qing had rewritten old Chinese operas into epic melodramas about the need to challenge and destroy the old order. All the old figures of authority were banished. Instead, the ordinary people, including women, took centre stage.
See, now think of modern-day Woking, where they've put those massive statues of normal people all around Woking. It's basic. It's this, isn't it? Or the smashing down of monuments 5 years ago, and the erection in their place of the celebration of the ordinary.
They were performed to millions of young Red Guards, and in talks before the performances, Jiang Qing told the audience how what they were about to watch were heroes awakening and realizing that they could take control.
Pause. Just in this clip here, this film, The Red Detachment of Women, it struck me from what you were saying there, AA, because this scene here, it's actually quite interesting. Some of the music's actually quite good, I will say, from some of this Chinese opera. It's almost like heroic spaghetti western music. I was listening to some the other night, and this scene is immediately after the character in the red there on the right. She has it's no, it's not her. It's I think it's the one just to the left of her. But basically, the enemy in the village has been slain, and what's the enemy in the village? He's the landlord. You know.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm just thinking with the focus on landlords at the moment.
Yeah, they've just passed. They've banned no fault evictions, haven't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm. Are you suggesting Rachel Reeves is like Mao's wife?
She's going mad and she lives surrounded by monkeys.
The nation made her cry, and now look what she's going to do.
Like Jiang Qing, she's coming back for revenge, yeah.
Today, I still vividly remember the first time I saw the revolutionary play. I was about 14, 13 years old. And there was a rush of emotion, of identity. I was so excited. Suddenly, I saw those plays after Jiang Qing's talk that night. And suddenly, what she was saying made sense to me, that there was a fundamental difference between the revolutionary art and the traditional art.
See, this could be somebody coming out of a Taylor Swift concert, couldn't it?
Yeah, this is. I just saw a comment in the chat from Stuff and Stuff saying communism, socialism is a very feminine way of thinking. I think your point there, is that it is a very dangerous moment when people get overtaken and inspired by, as you say, the kind of the regime and its own counter gangs and its own new heroic narrative that may just pop out somewhere and take us by surprise. So don't think that they're over yet. When they craft something, it could really sweep people up in a way that we would find very unhelpful.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that all this is very feminine, but remember, Stalin's answer was to just be like, "Don't let this happen." Do you remember? So I would say that Stalin's Russia was very masculine coded, whereas this is quite why Mao allowed this to happen remains to be seen, I guess. But I'm guessing from a pure power perspective, he used this to crush his own rivals within the party.
Yeah.
So that's what he was doing. He was allowing this to run as a means to some other end. That's what he was up to.
Effectively, you can reformat what you'd call your non-governing elites.
A lot of the chat is just asking the question, and I might as well ask Horus if he's here, and I'll ask you as well, Simon. Is this young lady a Wood?
I don't know. Skin doesn't look that great. Yeah, right, yeah.
This is where I need Time Stealer here. Time Stealer would be all over.
She's not rough. She's not ugly.
I'm going to say no. I'm afraid.
All right. Well, I double my yes then. I'd really enjoy
it. do it for the team, Horace, right?
She's all right. Yeah. She's not rough. She's not a minger. So.
Something in the play about the working class emotions and working class world outlook, and just the flamboyance of the working class figure on stage.
See, if she just talked like that, that would be enough to turn me off.
Yeah, I just remembered she's an idiot. No, I changed my answer. No.
Working class. Okay.
I don't know though. They're always. I don't know. Never mind.
She's like an image of a kind of a New York liberal student in the 70s, or even now. Wanting to exploit the idea of the working class as a kind of.
I think the fact that she's probably mental.
Yeah.
If we're just viewing the act in isolation and cutting out any emotion or chance of relationship, just the act in and of itself could be a fun night.
She might be a bit of a Chinese Patti Smith. I'm thinking of Patti Smith.
I'm seeing Ray Murasami energy in the chat.
That is my society. That's my life.
Well, Victoria Willig is saying, don't put it in crazy. Look, you just have to have the icy cold. Yeah, I'm never going to see you again. And if you can't take that emotionally, so be it.
That's true. You have to have a certain ruthlessness.
Just do it like that.
Ships in the night.
Exactly.
That's the people I see. That's the people I live with, and they're on stage.
Mao and Jiang Qing suspended all schools and universities, which released 120 million students, who were then sent out to find and destroy the demons that were hiding among those in authority.
Our teacher.
That's a great callback in the chat. Someone said, "Stop interrupting, let her finish." That is a great callback for one of the characters from the early days of this channel.
I need to hear her talk about pottery rights.
Let me finish.
Were often paraded through the streets, and we made them chant, "I'm a demon, I'm a devil. I deserve to die." That's the song, and they had to sing it. And they all sang. Whoever didn't got beaten up, some very badly. We used our belts to whip them. Some people used sticks. And the mother of this teacher was pushed over a bridge and fell to her death.
Now.
Pause a second.
Go on, Horace.
Yeah, there just seems to be various incidents of, especially in East Asia, I guess, of communist, initiatives sort of overthrowing the old order initiatives that lead to these arbitrary murders. Yeah, I don't know why that teacher's mother had to be killed, but in the establishing of Mao's regime, there was just quite apart from the Great Leap Forward and the Cultural Revolution and stuff, there was also this around 1 million people killed in just sort of impromptu village trials and town, provincial trials of the bourgeois, basically, or owners or exploiters. Just people who are, kulaks, really, or just local people who had 3 cows instead of none or something, 1 million people were killed just in that manner. Just a mob sets up a kangaroo court in a village and denounces them for owning stuff.
Can you imagine being in that trial? I was just trying to sell you a sandwich, mate. I was just right. trying to sell a sandwich. I'm just a humble merchant.
But they don't make that association that owning things often goes along with making things available. They're not prepared to acknowledge that. But in Vietnam, you had the same thing under the early sort of years of Ho Chi Minh. Just overthrow of the old order, and it just generally means murder or arbitrary executions and stuff. Yeah.
But
in this cultural revolution, there was a lot of chaos, and it really got out of hand.
Here's a thought, though, right? In the interest of being sensible centre-left. Let's see how this goes. While I was thinking about the manufacturing output of Iran versus Britain, it occurred to me that the mullahs of Iran, basically what they did they didn't kill the bourgeoisie. They basically just like made them flee to the West. So most of the Iranian middle class now live in the West, right? And they spend a lot of their time marching up and down the square, cheering for the cuckolded Shah, and trying to overthrow the regime through placard activism in London and LA and stuff like that, which is obviously not going to work. But maybe the increases in manufacturing output and productivity have literally just come from the fact that they've eliminated their bourgeoisie. And then I started thinking of Russia and China as well, thinking, well, maybe like, okay, it's bloody, it's brutal, but they've got rid of their bourgeois. They've got rid of them now. They're just not there anymore. And now you can have manufacturing stocks go up. What do you think about that, Horace?
Sorry, what is the actual statement? Like getting rid of the bourgeoisie makes GDP go up?
Is not good. It's good for manufacturing output. And
I don't know, why would it be?
Because the bourgeoisie have entrenched private interests, right? So
raw proletarian power makes everything happen.
You get rid of that layer, whether even if it's down to the level of your local shopkeeper or something like that. Yeah, they're innocent people. Yeah, they haven't done anything wrong, but their entire mindset, right? Their entire mindset is wrong. So it's like, I mean, imagine a Britain now where you just kind of like, there are no Julia Hartley Brewers left in the country.
Oh.
They're just gone.
Well, no, that's unfair. That's unfairly...
Simon's like, yes,
wonderful,
let's do it.
Wonderful.
Yeah, no, that's great on loads of fronts at once. I mean, what's that got to do with it, though? Well, she's not. Is she the bourgeois? Is she
Julia Hartley Brewer? Like, I mean, let's face it, they are the bourgeois. The average, the average kind of talk TV viewer, watcher, listener is basically the class that would be targeted by these sorts of actions, because it's your petty bourgeois.
Yeah.
So when the Mullahs took over, they seized all the little like corner shops and stuff.
No. Well, they had the support. So to be clear, they had the support of the Bazaris in Iran, but the Bazaris are kind of like your traditional bazaar owner, right? Who've been there for 1,000 years. So that's a little bit different from the modern bourgeoisie, which is more like your private businessman type thing. Your private,
somewhat educated metropolitan elite class.
It's the middle class, which comes with a set of values. Typically university educated to some extent, private, and privately wealthy enough to be able to not have to pledge allegiance to a regime.
And it can also provide very vocal intellectual impedance.
What happened is that when the revolution took over, I mean, they killed a certain amount of people. I think actually they ended up killing up more commies than bourgeois, the mullahs, because they were allied with the socialists who were in the way then. So I think they ended up killing commies. But a lot of those people who were privately wealthy enough to just left. Right, they just left the country and went and lived in Canada.
Other characteristics.
Yeah.
So of this bourgeoisie that you lust after liquidating, right? I imagine other qualities include contempt for those who haven't achieved as much as them. Is that right? A lack of patriotism.
Yeah, I hate to say it. It's like, I mean, it's literally my dad.
And Daniel Hannan? Are you thinking of like Daniel Hannan? Is he
Daniel Hannan? Basically anyone who, when the revolution happened, would have private means to leave, would flee the country to escape the grip of whatever new regime it is. Those people are then gone, and so what I'm saying is, objectively speaking, once those people are there, a lot of the resistance to new things coming in would be removed within a country. Like imagine if Keir Starmer could wave a magic wand and just get rid of all those people that are troublesome to the Labour government. he would end up eliminating like the exact people that Nigel Farage represents, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
And therefore, once those people are literally gone, either because they've been murdered, as Mao did it, or just because they fled the country, as in the case of Iran, then it's like, well, now there's nothing there will be nothing in Keir Starmer's way, or Tony Blair's way, or whoever's way, to just have the system they want, and it would move a lot faster as a result.
So has this? I mean, is there an enduring sort of is the economic abilities of Iran much better continually for having done that?
Well, they have. I mean, that is the actual outcome. Is that their manufacturing capacity is way above what it was in 1979, and it's gone up year on year, partly enforced by sanctions, and But what I'm saying is, partly it could, like, we in the West tend to see it as quote unquote brain drain. Them losing their best and their brightest. Okay, that's how we tend to view it. But what I'm saying is, maybe actually they are actually offloading a problem, right, onto other countries, and what they gain then, what the regime gains, is a more productive workforce for raw manufacturing output, because all the pains in the arses are somewhere else presenting podcasts. As basically like half of the podcast class are Iranian. Have you noticed that? It's because it's literally the bourgeoisie of Iran is now Patrick Bet-David or Maya Touzi or whoever. They're just over here, or Aaron Bastani. They're all over here. Or me.
And I think of Darius Falizadeh as well, who's the other famous Iranian in the West.
So
Darius, Rushdi,
Rushdi. I mean, there's so many of them. Who's that gamer guy? I forget. I mean, what I'm saying is, imagine the regime having to deal with all these people. Pains in the arses they'd be.
Yeah. This is literally in the lyrics of this song that by Claude Chanet, that Mau Mau, that Curtis is about to play. Imperialism dictates its law everywhere. The enemy to them. Revolution is not a dinner party.
Right. So you just export or expel or eliminate the dinner party as a class.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So, I could raise from an ideological perspective, I could raise many objections. But if all you're offering me is to get rid of Daniel Hannan, Julia Hartley-Brewer, and let's say Fraser Nelson, I am on board, and I am
basically it. Though that's basically it.
Suddenly converted to the sensible centre.
Yeah.
L'impérialisme dicte partout sa loi. La révolution n'est pas un dîner. La bomba est un tigre en papier. Les masses sont les véritables héros. Les
ricains tuent et moi je mets Mao.
Les bombes tonnent et moi je sonne Mao Mao.
I'm going to stick this on the 80s playlist, Simon. I'm loving it. Mau Mau.
Well, it was actually from 1967. It was for a film called La Chinoise. It was a Jean-Luc Godard film, actually, about these young students in Paris who are kind of shallow. They're sort of sincere in their revolutionary zeal, but really they're kind of just flirting with radical politics as a kind of distraction in their life, So, yeah.
Alan,
go on.
Sorry, go on. Oh well, Maoism does seem to have taken hold in France. Like Alain Badiou is still a famous Maoist philosopher now. Right?
Yeah. Zizek's always quoting him as his friend, isn't
he? Yeah, my friend Alain Badiou, and also Jean-Paul Sartre and his bird, I think, were quite sympathetic to Mao as well.
Simone de Beauvoir.
Yeah, that's one of his birds, wasn't it?
Julie Kristeva.
I think it's Kristeva, the Bulgarian one. Yeah.
And those are the sentiments of the song. It also goes on to say, the basis of the army is the soldier. True power grows out of the barrel of a gun. The beasts will all be annihilated. The enemy doesn't perish by itself. So,
So that's kind of having a laugh with it, isn't it? Yeah. So,
no, I do know. I've been watching some Marxists in the interest of balance and fairness, who are actually against the Maoist turn in the Western left. This is Paul. In fact, I've got a video on this next week as well, because it's one of my special interest areas. Louis Althusser, who was the French Marxist of the 60s, really, who was the one who talked about ideology and the ideological superstructure and how capitalism reproduces itself through ideology. So therefore, this is the kind of Gramscian idea that you have to gain control of the culture, right? The way to overthrow it, the reason the revolution doesn't happen is because of ideology, ultimately. And obviously, you can see how this goes hand in hand with Maoism as well. But what this Paul Cockshott is saying in his video is that, like, this was just gay, basically, because it meant that the intellectual Marxism retreated into, like, the English department, basically, where it had no real effect on the actual economic system itself, which I thought was a pretty interesting critique. So
this is Curtis's thesis as well, that the radicals retreated into culture, so there you have it. Yeah,
but it doesn't actually address the means of production issue.
Yeah, I just want to add, Curtis has got something to say on this leftwards drift here.
My sense is that the AA Aaron Bastani crossover will happen eventually, and at that point AA will lure in that bit of the radical left with his common sense appreciation of politics, and they'll be so charmed with his analysis that they give up their souls to the power of the Dark Lord, Tony Blair.
Wait, is that what you're trying to do? Seduce them for the Dark Lord? You're not actually on his side, are you?
No. I mean, I will say that I have picked up quite the Marxist following in the past few weeks, and some of their tweets and things are very interesting because these issues that we're talking about are currently kind of live issues in the kind of like. Let me show you this tweet, which I think encapsulates exactly what we're talking about. Orvo, right, who I reposted impishly, right? Mecca Orvo, who is clearly a commie account, right? And he follows me. He's a Marxist-Leninist and an American patriot in the American
Hinkle crowd, right?
Right.
That's Jackson Hinkle's party, isn't it?
Now, I don't know, like, he's followed by Red Operative, Leninist, and Battlement. Like, these are the sorts of
who you're following.
No, this person, artsy Marxist, said, "Artists are workers. We deserve a fair wage for our labor. We deserve solidarity from other workers." And then Mass Strike Now, also a commie, says, "Absolutely, artists are on the cutting edge of the class struggle, and this should never be diminished. Too often we ask them to believe only in themselves and isolate them due to reactionary anti-intellectualism. Solidarity to you and all revolutionary artists, Fist." And Orvo said, woke nonsense. Which I think is basically an encapsulation of what we've been talking about. So,
can we see a close-up of that artsy Marxist? She looks like she might be a wood.
Possibly saucy. I think it's a painting. It's a self-portrait. Yeah.
I've fallen for that a few times, actually.
just to whoever it was in the chat was asking, actually, if we get a Stuart Lee AI, I will work on it, but I mean, I've done my best with this. Hold on, where's he gone? Oh, no, forget it. I've lost him. Don't worry.
While you're looking, I looked up artsy Marxist. She's got a link tree. She looks quite pretty.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. There we go. I'm solving like the political struggle, one romance at a time. Horace and the artsy Marxist are going to get together.
She looks all right. Artsy Marxist, if you're listening.
Yeah, you've seen them about the rap singers. You've seen the rap singers on the top of the pops. They have them, don't they? They used to come on there, didn't they? The rap singers come on the top of the pops. You've seen them on there, the rap singers.
I'm looking on Artsy Marx's SoundCloud page, and she's got a song called "The Landlord."
Wow! Wow!
I guess she's from Mexico. Maybe that's got a different connotation out there. Maybe that means he owns like 1 billion acres or something, and everyone's a slave. But
she's a proper Marxist, though. Having a look at her, there's a lot of raised fists and solidarity with Cuba, and
she's got like dyed black hair, and she looks like a goth Marxist or something. That might help.
Okay, oh, yummy goth mummy Marxist girlfriend for you or us.
Scummy mummy.
Art-ho Marxist girlfriend for Horus. Oh man, I'm going to play this. I'm going to have to get a cigar, guys. I
can rescue her. She's the new Bev. She's
the new Beverly. Yeah.
From London.
I'm going to play it. It's no different from that Rose who Curtis Yarvin was hanging out with, though. Let's face it. Just like the left version of that. So
Key Buckley in the chat says she banged the landlord to pay her rent. That may be true. And then writes a song about it in a morose sort of style. Yeah.
It could be a cover of Bob Dylan's Dear Landlord, one of my least favourite Bob Dylan songs.
It's going to be in Spanish as well. It's going to be El Jefe Landlord.
Right. You're going to have to not pause for at least a minute while I get a cigar. Okay.
Had been born in what was now East Germany. His father had been a fervent Nazi and an anti-Semite. In 1945, his family fled across Germany from the approaching Red Army. Then his father committed suicide. Mahler grew up in West Berlin, and everything was buried. In 1964, Mahler joined a new group called the APO, the Extra-Parliamentary Opposition. They knew that many of those in charge of the country had been senior members of the Nazi Party. But no one talked about it. And they wanted to expose the Nazi crimes of those in charge and challenge their control of the country.
There was the memory knocking at the door. And we asked our parents and our grandfathers, what did you do all this time? Did you resist, or had you been a little Nazi, or had you been an opportunist? And
all right, I'm back. Is Horace still fantasizing about his goth Marxist girlfriend? Right.
No, I'm thinking about Marxism and communism and stuff. This guy Horst Mahler just died a couple of months ago. We talked about him, didn't we, on The Living Dead? I believe it was.
Yeah, he's very interesting. He was far left. He was part of Baader Meinhof, Red Army faction. He eventually switched to being a neo-Nazi in the 1990s. And he was actually
again.
He joined the NPD. You know, this what was thought of as a far right, almost neo-Nazi party, and he was actually thrown out for being extreme.
What? So what? Sorry, what does that mean? The NPD is actually a containment thing on the far right.
You judge.
Discussion was blocked by the elder generation, and so it became hostile.
Sorry, pause a second. The student. I just want to say to anyone who hasn't watched all of The Deepest Law, you may want to go back to the episode. I think it was The Living Dead, where Horst Mahler, because this question of, I guess we don't want to revisit it now, but just this question of how anti-Nazi West Germany should be after the war, like how much they should eradicate the old regime, as in not one person left from it and stuff, I think is a really interesting question, and how the generation that grew up in the 60s and after, how they regard the previous generation, and how the previous generation, how much they talk about the wartime and the Nazi time and stuff. I think it's absolutely fascinating. And obviously it led to, like, in some cases it was these, communist revolutionaries, but I don't think they had it right. Obviously, anyway, we should probably move on. But I recommend people go back and watch that episode, because I think that's a really interesting thing.
I also just mention, I just saw on my Twitter timeline, never say that I am not on the cutting edge, friends, because this is Fuentes did Tucker Carlson, and look what he said on there. I'm a fan of Stalin. Nick Fuentes.
Hey, would this be a good time? Could your people speak to Tucker's people, and maybe you could go on his show, because that could. I don't really think much of Nick Fuentes, to be honest, but I think.
Well, I'm not sure if I want to be panning around with reactionaries, Horace.
Right. Sorry. I mean, I'm guessing Tucker did some wide-eyed stare when he said about.
I still haven't. To be honest, I still haven't watched it. But I think I did. Somebody did send me that clip of him saying I'm a Stalin fan, And Tucker just does his, all right then, all right. We'll circle back to that, said Tucker, and I don't think he went back to it.
At least once before, I've seen Fuentes praising Stalin. It's a thing he does. He does it with.
I think he watched my video as well. I know that.
Oh, with Grover Fur.
No, the earlier one where I said I've been reading. The one where I said, "What if everything you know about Stalin's a lie?" type thing. I know he watched that one. So. He doesn't like me anymore, though. He reckons I've stabbed him in the back or something. Whatever.
Just some daft silliness. I think that Grover Fur interview is really interesting. There's nothing wrong with having a pro-Stalin perspective included in the debate. I think that's good.
Well,
content,
the fact he spent so much time in the archives, I think, is like his autistic method interests me because I reckon if you did that with most history, you'd end up with wondering how much history at all anybody knows. Like if like how Grover Fur goes through every single footnote and checks it against the actual source and so on. I reckon you could probably do it with every conflict ever. And come up.
That is one of the great things about David Irving as well. I think Stephen Kotkin is another guy who does that. They just read the whole archive, everything. And that's what they compose their history from, even if it makes for quite a complicated story that seems to contradict itself and stuff. It's just like, right, well, the solution to that is to just lay on less of your own narrative and just present more of what happened. And like Irving's brilliant for that.
I don't know what the truth is. I still don't really know what the actual truth is about Stalin, but I do know that, for example, Robert Conquest,
yeah,
you can just throw him out. Conquest was doing propaganda. He wasn't doing history. That much is certain,
I took history A-level in the late 90s, and we had one of the sort of units of it was historiography, which was new to me at the time. And we learned in that Robert Conquest is largely sort of laughed at. His figures are wishful, Conquest largely laughed at by other historians. Obviously, he was a poet. He dabbled in history because he thought others were doing it badly. So I don't particularly blame him.
One of the worst things is finding that, that figure of so many people went to the Gulag and so on. Literally, Conquest interviewed somebody who'd been released from a Gulag, said, "How many people do you think were put in the Gulag?" And the guy was just like, maybe 5%. And then he took that number and extrapolated the number from that random anecdote that one prisoner said, right? And that's where you get the figure from, which is then repeated, because Conquest said it, it's then repeated in many, many other histories of the Soviet Union. And was repeated up until the 1991 archives were actually released, and they had a document of all the people who were gulagged. So
this is why when I write a historical essay, I check every source. I check that it says what I'm saying it says, and otherwise I'm just being one of those derivative nothings that just pass on what other people said. What is the point of that? So Conquest is a bit of a joke, and I just thought that doing things like talking to a Stalinist, nothing wrong with that, but just don't become like one of those commies like Jackson Hinkle or Haz al-Din, who are just idiots. But you won't anyway.
Hinkle routinely makes stuff up. I'll say that much.
It's just boring. There's nothing. Why is he so famous? It doesn't say anything.
I've never understood. And his tweets always have like tens of thousands of likes.
Well. It's like cadres. He's got cadres organised to pump his stuff up. That's how he's got millions and millions of followers. But he's a nothing. He's a non-entity.
A reaction of the German government. And Horst Mahler and other radicals began to think that the problem was far deeper than just individual Nazis. But maybe the whole Nazi system had also survived and was hiding behind the facade of modern capitalism.
Which is also the thesis of UKIP types, isn't it, Horace? Not you, but during the whole Brexit debate, a large kind of cadre of the Julia Hartley-Brewer types. I don't even know if Brewer was against, was for Brexit. I imagine she was.
She was, yeah.
Yeah. That was a big talking point in Brexit circles, that the EU was kind of Nazism, and
there's also
kind of
a book
rebranded.
I don't know how you pronounce it, but John Lauchland or Laughland, He wrote a book arguing that it's crap, it's stupid. Like John Laughlin has, or however you pronounce it, has done some other good work, but he just vaguely associates the EU with because the Nazis did have some ideas of a unified Europe and stuff. So did various other people before the Second World War. But it's so lame. It's like the EU SSR thing as well. That it's actually a Soviet plot. There's people who seriously argue that it's like a Soviet seeded, like Soviet agents created the idea of the EU and have carried it through all the way till now. And the same with the Nazis. It's the Nazis actually never went away. They continued as the EU somehow. I don't know which individual they're actually talking about there. That's nonsense. It's ridiculous. But yeah, it's boomer cope, isn't it? It's like we have to compare everything we don't like to the Nazis or the communists. It's so dull.
So Angela Merkel was secretly a Nazi. Is this the kind of idea? Yeah.
And a Stasi agent as well, yeah.
They argued that the very system...
But of course, being a Stasi agent and a Nazi is the same thing, because in their worldview, Nazism is the same thing as being a communist.
The horseshoe.
There's horseshoe, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Of industrial rationality and bureaucratic control that had made the Nazi state so efficient had simply mutated. It had been taken up by the victors, above all by America, and was now being used to run the new global capitalism and the multinational corporations that were ruthlessly exploiting what was called the Third World. Anything that stood in the system's way was bombed or burnt, with weapons created by the same rational industrial techniques that made the mass consumer goods. But the people in the West couldn't see this, because they had been led into a dream world that used mass consumerism and sexualized imagery to entrance and distract everyone.
Pause. Yeah.
Sorry, both of you.
No, I think that's just an interesting point. It's that you sort of have to wobble your head a little bit when you think back to kind of 70s leftist radicals, and the image is that they're sort of wanting to fight for the emancipation of the Third World, and that's the kind of sort of banner narrative that they had, and it was the kind of they were doing it at an altruistic level of social or economic justice. That's the impression people had at the time. But what Curtis is saying here, there's another element here in which they actually are doing that as they would call it, a resistance against the reinforcement of governmental control at home. That's the thing, that America becomes the hegemon, exploits the Third World, and that becomes, in a sense, part of the issue. The developed world can point at the Third World and talk about how it's attempting to help the Third World, but that in itself is a kind of, a mask for authoritarian governance.
Yeah, I'm a little bit confused by the basic, because my understanding is that in the 60s and the 70s, Third World referred to, technically speaking, India,
developing countries,
which was like the technical definition of First, Second, and Third World was the First World was the West and America, and anybody aligned with them as well. The Second World was anybody in the Soviet bloc, and the Third World were countries like India that had a studied neutrality between the two, and who played them off.
So the non-aligned movement.
Exactly, but if that was the case, if that was the actual origin of these terms, then how was the First World exploiting, quote unquote, the Third World when the Third World's official stance was neutrality between the First and the Second? Do you understand what I'm saying? Right?
Yeah, because it makes a good narrative to appeal to bourgeois liberal guilt in the West.
In reality, it was an iron cage, designed to look like an open and free welfare state, a false state of peace that was built really on horror and war.
We were convinced that our situation here, the welfare state, is only possible as a result by the exploitation of the Third World. And we said we must disturb this peace, this false peace in our country, in order to show the responsibility of us, that it is our task to implement sabotage in the centers of imperialism.
Pause. Just to briefly mention there that Curtis referring back to his favorite sociologist Max Weber with his so-called iron cage, the Stahlratesgehäuse, from his book The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism, which is describing how, as he says there, the sort of modern bureaucratic world that is is driven by kind of optimization of indices, locks you down into this thing that also David Graeber is pointing at, that it neutralizes any violence within the system and distracts it into people's lives becoming bureaucratized essentially, and thereby trapped.
Black power. Let's react to your arrest, Brown. Of course, racist America has done it again, but that's not going to end the burning in Detroit, brother, because we built the country up and we'll burn it down, honkies and all.
Mr. Brown, did you tell them to burn down that school?
Be serious, I ain't got to...
What is a honky in their parlance? I forget.
A white person.
Right.
He's a black nationalist leader, H. Rap Brown. His famous book, I can't actually say the word, but it was Die, N-Word, Die, a political autobiography.
And his middle name was literally Rap.
Yeah.
You can say nincompoop on air.
That's it. Yeah, Die, Nincompoop, Die. Yeah.
Tell black folks what to burn. Did you tell them to shoot Lady Bird?
So what's the difference between a honky and a cracker then?
No difference, really. No
Ghostface is another one.
Did I tell them to burn down Detroit? Did I tell the America to bring black people here? Did you tell them to shoot at Lady Bird? I say if they give me a gun and tell me to shoot my enemy, I might shoot you. Where have you been since the other night? Okay, let's go.
Pause, please. When you said shoot Lady Bird, does that mean the wife of Lyndon Johnson?
LBJ's wife, yeah, that's right.
Why was that mentioned?
He had made a threat to do so, as it were, had declared an intent to do so. I mean, he was sort of fairly provocative kind of character. He eventually was sort of associated with the Black Panthers, he was part of what was called the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and them and the Black Panthers tried to sort of have an alignment for a while, and the Black Panthers made him the so-called Minister of Justice. But essentially, he was just advocating, armed resistance to the white-dominated system.
For anyone who isn't familiar, these are elements of the '60s New Left, right? Capital N, capital L, sometimes, where people talk about woke taking off in the last 10 years. It's ridiculous, right? All the anti-white ideas really were live and being acted on back then in the sort of mid to late 60s. And the Weather Underground, the infamous Weather Underground, who obviously committed a lot of terrorist attacks and then got away with it all, nearly. They were so pro-black, they put themselves by choice, this was like a doctrine on their part, to put themselves under the command of black leaders, which normally meant Black Panthers. So I don't know when that guy was talking just then, but a couple of years after that,
67.
he literally had okay, so yeah, Weather Underground got going in about 69 or 70, I think, and then carried on through the 70s. And they, by the sort of mid to late 70s, they were literally just asking a Black Panther leader to tell them, where are we going to rob next, or where are we going to blow up, or whatever. It's mad stuff. And they got into really violent crimes, murdered some people in some cases. And, but this was the new left.
According to Caleb Morpin, whose books I bought, Sensible Centre Leftist.
He's a Marxist. He's a proper communist, but yeah,
sensible centre leftist. He, in so much as he rejects woke, right? He argues, this Morpin chap, in his books, that the whole purpose of woke and the whole purpose of the kind of Democrat-funded social justice movement was to crowd out those more serious movements that we're looking at here. That was the serious, that was the genuine form of it, and woke is the commodified fake version of it.
Yes,
that is put into a format that is not going to be a threat to the system.
That's literally the split there that H. Rap Brown is amidst. He's with the SNCC, and the Black Panthers are there. The SNCC are actually the more hardcore. They want race-based nationalism, and they and essentially, organizing the kulaks against the urban whites, while the Panthers were more about a sort of Marxist class analysis and anti-capitalism and dealing with issues like the conditions in the ghetto at a political level.
Non-violence is okay, but you get nowhere with non-violence. I like violence.
Malcolm X started, but King finished.
Malcolm X set the idea. He rooted it rather in the minds of many blacks. He really started the ball rolling.
You feel that violence is necessary in order to get rid of what you would call the oppression?
This is something that Maupin discusses, by the way, which is George Sorel, who I'm sure you're both familiar with, who has a book called Reflections on Violence, where he talks about the importance, literally, of violence, revolutionary movements. And Maupin talks about how, and in fact, this Cockshot has talked about this as well, reference to Althusser and the cultural turn and so on, how so much of what has happened is an attempt to, like, stop them being violent, So if you can stop them being violent and get them to, like, defend Disney putting gay stuff in kids' films, right? You've kind of done your job, to put it in very crude terms. And if there is going to be violence, the violence has to take the form of state-controlled counter-gang, as opposed to this sort of thing which is off the grid. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, because BLM in 2020, those riots were spectacularly violent, but you always had the feeling that they would just be put away when they were done with them.
And they were controlled. Yeah.
I mean, that's the little contrast that he does with this sort of beauty contest. And this woman isn't kind of random. It's an idea of, I think he's trying to sort of get at an idea that bourgeois society is kind of, it's sort of self-obsessed and self-regarding, and its performance, let's say, as the leftists would say, of femininity, is in contrast to this woman who is a kind of militant, racialized, feminine activist. Where the kind of, there's no limits to where they'll go. Whereas, the Western sort of the imagery there, the beauty contest it's all kind of neatly contained and structured, and it won't escape the bounds in the way that these kind of activists would.
Get rid of it. But it will open, some of whitey's eyes to say, well, we're not joking, we really mean what we say.
Do you find yourself really hating white people?
Yes. Some people hold grudges, and I do. Look how they treat me. How many flows did my great-grandmother stroke, How many babies did she take care of that wasn't hers? Stuff like that. And I'm just one of those people that hold things.
Alice Faye Williams had been born in North Carolina. She had run away from home when she was young because she was frightened of her violent father. And she came to New York when she was 15. She managed to get a place to study at the School of Performing Arts. Then one day, on 125th Street in Harlem, she listened to a speech by Bobby Seale, one of the leaders of the Black Panthers. The Black Panthers believed that the only way to stop racism in America was for black people to get power. Simply changing the law was not enough. The anger and the fear remained hidden away in millions of people's minds. The solution was black power. And the first person to articulate this was Stokely Carmichael on a civil rights march in Mississippi, on one day when the more moderate Martin Luther King was absent.
So I just made a speech building up to it, building up, showing that it wasn't a question of morality, it wasn't a question of being good or bad, it was simply a question of power. And that we black people had no power, and we had to have some power.
See, the thing is, I think he's basically right. From their point of view, these guys are basically correct, which is why they had to be dealt with by the system.
Interesting thing here is that is like identified with the civil rights movement. Like that, yeah, it's just actually it's nothing to do with like pleading for basic rights or anything. It was a vector for seizing more power, which is understandable. But, you know,
I think what happened though, Horus, is that this element over time was sanitized out.
Yeah,
and that what civil rights has become in retrospect is literally just the Martin Luther King variant. If that makes any sense? Not this more militant Black Power style. Yeah.
But was it not always anyway? Like Martin Luther King comes sort of in the daytime and says, you know, gives you a nice option. You can sort of settle out of court, as it were. And if you don't give him what he wants that evening, there's a fucking riot. Like, isn't that how it worked anyway? Like, it's just to protect. Like, I think the TV and whatever just love to put forward the face of Martin Luther King because he seemed reasonable and whatever. But
I think
the whole thing was a threat. It always was.
I think at the time that was what was happening, but I think over the subsequent years and decades, the security state, I'll just put it that way, absolutely smashed this part of it and just kept the Martin Luther King bit. You know.
I mean, Malcolm X was murdered, and they say it was one of the members of the Nation of Islam. But there's always been a lot of people who accuse that of having been the FBI. Really, I think there is something to investigate there. And that's Malcolm X was particularly militant, wasn't he? Like Stokely Carmichael, somewhat, but I think Malcolm X was especially militant. And separatist.
Carmichael and Brown. I mean, Carmichael was part of the SNCC that Brown was part of as well. But again, he got expelled for falling out with them ideologically. But essentially, they were kind of about tooling up and presenting a capable force of violence.
And these guys will, you know, the Black Panthers especially, they would confront the police specifically, and that is, you know, a challenge to the state. So you can see why that's considered a threat, whereas Martin Luther King wasn't. But when it comes to, there's always been black leaders who threaten to become racial separatists, right? Like the new Black Panther Party under Khalid Mohammed, and they. Again, they are a threat. They need to be suppressed by the sort of civil rights thinking people because they will try and create a new nation and blacks will leave America if they succeed, right? Or even return to Africa or have a black section of the USA. And that is not the idea. It is specifically to force everyone into the same space, right? That is what civil rights is all about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Brown went on a bit of a journey. I mean, he eventually... he was imprisoned in the sort of early 70s, and then eventually he killed a policeman in 2000. So he was then jailed for life. But in the 70s, after he was initially released from jail in the mid 70s, he converted to Islam, and his journey became a bit like we saw in the Century of the Self. You know, the hippies realize they can't fight the system, so they go inwards, and that was part of a sort of transition, perhaps towards that kind of reformatted Black Panthers, you know, where they're trying to sort of have a longer term program.
Do you see in that light? Do you see how there's good reasons to oppose the anti-woke left as much as the woke left, right? Because the anti-woke left are the ones trying to say integration is the right answer, whereas there's elements of the woke left who would give. This is why there is some valid comparison between the so-called woke left and woke right, as in the people who think racially, who accept race as part of their analysis. We do genuinely have a mutual interest with parts of the woke left in that some of them are open to the Marcus Garvey ideas, the Back to Africa, or I mean, a lot of them aren't, but or you know, but separatism and not trying to make this great marriage work. You know, like a marriage is a bit kind, but you know what I mean. Whereas the anti-woke left are really the people trying to work for the state, you know, work for the what's that civil rights body called, you know, and there's the RICU body in Britain, you know, they're the people who basically support
the CRC in America,
right.
Or CRS,
type of power we could have it.
Really.
Yeah, but didn't Jared Taylor used to do like joint conferences or what?
So did I think Tom Metzger of White Aryan Resistance tried to form a proper alliance. They had like formal negotiations with the new Black Panther Party, who were racial separatists. Don't know what came of it.
The American government is just not going to allow it to happen, though. So
nah, that's the absolute anathema to them, right? They want the exact opposite. They want the centre left. Sorry, I know that's your boys, but they want the anti-woke left. That is, regime wants anti-woke. Yeah.
There's black power. Black power.
We want black power. We want black power. We want black power. We want black power. We want black power.
Sorry, pause again, please. I do sympathise with this, like black power in the sense that some of them mean it. I do want that. I do want to have black people running their own. I want to see black people running their own nations and feeling like they're not under anyone else's thumb, and having an option, you know, a place to go where they can have things their own way, be it for good or bad, like be it whether it works or not. That would be a good thing, wouldn't it?
This is actually a low-key part of Thomas Sowell's work, right? Now, he never formally argues for black power, but if you read between the lines of what he's saying in most of his books on race, he always argues that they did better when they were in their own, when they had their own businesses, they ran their own areas, they weren't forced to integrate, they just did it for themselves, they weren't on welfare gibs or whatever. All of Sowell's work, basically, is backdoor arguing for just a kind of segregated black area, basically. As far as I can understand Sowell's work, he never just comes out and says it, but all his arguments point in that direction, and all his evidence is like, yeah, you know, in this time in 1940, you know, in this street in Harlem, people were just doing it for themselves, and they were a lot better than when they were kind of forced to live with white liberals, basically. That's Sowell's whole argument. I
think like there's that guy Booker Washington from the late 19th century, early 20th century, who basically argued for that. Like that, I think he said the talented 10th of black people are like, we need to be the leaders of the rest. But yeah, just have our own thing and stop trying to like pretend to be anything other than we are, and stop trying to like make this completely ridiculous integration idea work.
Kanye West had a little period of it as well, didn't he?
And it's always an idea that has to be shot down by the more establishment types.
Black power. That's right. That's what we want. Black power.
They responded immediately in a healthy manner. Dr. King came back the next day, but it was too late then. Black power had been established.
Alice Williams decided to join the Black Panthers. She became a member of a new chapter that had been set up in Harlem, and she changed her name to Afeni Shakur. She later explained what the Panthers meant for her. For the first time, she said, there was now something I could do with all this aggression and all this fear inside me. The Panther Party at that time took my rage and channeled it against them instead of against us. They educated my mind and gave me direction. And with that direction came hope.
Well, what are those helmets? They look like they're from Dad's army.
Yeah, sort of M1917 old style Tommy helmets that the Americans had as well.
Oh, there were. I saw in the precinct a number of men and women being brought in. I had contact with some of the women when we were in the precinct, and they were also beaten. Some had black eyes, some had swollen lips, and so forth. And from what most of them said, they were just walking along the street, and most of them were pushed or hit with a club. And when they, protested the fact that they were being hit for nothing, then they were beaten and arrested.
We teach children that the policeman is a friend. In Harlem, however, although I know that there are policemen who are friendly and kind and decent and fair, this type of policeman is a rare thing.
Eh?
The others go, I mean, I do shows in aid of people like you.
Got to be one of the all-time Curtis flips there, Simon.
Yes.
I mean,
this is a trans ventriloquist called Terry Rogers, and the puppet's called Shorty Harris. And Terry Rogers was one of the early people who underwent gender reassignment on the NHS in the early 60s.
Are we talking the whole job?
Yes, yes. I'll put a link to some stuff. It's actually quite interesting, but some of the chit chat.
Did he kill himself? Just as we were talking about, I don't know if anybody knows the popular rap song "Dear Mama" by Tupac Shakur, but that was addressed to the woman we saw a moment ago, Alice Faye Williams, Afeni Shakur, his mother. Yeah.
Wow.
He was. Yeah, he went to. I think she sent him to a school where he did ballet. I think we've talked about this, right? It's quite a strange upgrade. He was, brought up in a Black Panther family, but he did ballet at school and then became a rapper.
And is this part of the Curtis thesis ultimately, Simon, that better be Alice than to be gay Tupac, basically?
No comment, but Tupac will come in later. Yeah,
Tupac is the cultural turn.
Yeah,
it's the cultural turn, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
doing ballet isn't gay, is it? I mean, you need men in ballet as well, don't you?
I don't know if it was just ballet. I think he was thinking of being an actor as well, so a general all-round, performer, actor, dancer, that kind of stuff.
You see, you could make the argument, and I'm sure people would make this argument to Curtis, saying, "Well, look, who had more impact ultimately, Tupac or his mum?" She, did a few bits of random violence, but ultimately they didn't get anywhere. Tupac sold millions of records, and his message got out there. That's what's the counter to that argument, Curtis?
I mean, I think from when we looked at the critical review last week, one of the things that people point out was Curtis comes down the side that, Tupac sort of failed when he tried to put politics into his music.
Right. While we're talking about it, just top 3 Tupac tracks, just off the top of your head.
Well, I was a East Coast guy, as I keep on saying.
Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I'm trying to think now. I'm trying to think now.
I think he was from the East Coast, though, wasn't he? He was from New York.
He was West Coast, wasn't he?
I think he was from. Well, his mum here was living in Harlem or something, right?
I think we need to be careful. We don't want to get any heat from Suge.
Sorry, yeah, that we could get blapped.
His famous one was California Love, but I never liked that song.
Yeah, with Dr. Dre.
I didn't like that. So that was
okay, sorry, I forgot that you were an East Coast guy. Sorry,
that was in the Thunderdome with Tina Turner, wasn't it? That song. Wasn't this the video of California Love set in the Thunderdome? Am I imagining that wrong?
I think it's like an imitation of it. It's supposed to allude to something like that, yeah. But I don't. It's much later though, isn't it? Thunderdome was like mid-80s or late 80s. This was like early to mid-90s.
No, I seem to remember that Tina Turner was in the video. That could just be one of those Mandela effect things.
It must have been a recall to Thunderdome, Beyond Thunderdome, if so.
Or something. Or was it like a Mad Max tie-in? Or I can't remember.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, there's some years between them, though, so...
I'm going to look it up now.
California Lovin' was like 94, 95.
It was inspired. It was inspired by Mad Max Beyond the Thunderdome and directed by Hype Williams. So it was just like a knockoff, basically. It wasn't actually...
I love... Tina Turner's song from that movie is great. We Don't Need Another Hero. I love that.
But Tina Turner's not in that video.
No,
she's only in the movie. So I got that wrong. Yeah.
All right, so you prefer like Jay-Z and Puff Daddy. I'll do 3 Tupac tracks. I love Death Around the Corner. I love Till the End of Time, and I love Me Against the World. I think they're really good tracks.
Would it be unfeasibly mainstream to pick Changes?
No, it's great. I love it. It's that and the other one I mentioned, Till the End of Time. They were both already Tupac songs, I think, on his albums, but unremarkable. And then they were totally remade, like whole new songs, by someone after he died, and they became huge hits, like hundreds of millions of views on YouTube and stuff. Yeah. So he's another one who got bigger after he died. It helped his career.
All right. Let's get back to Big Brenda. Yeah, have you noticed, by the way, that the modern troon tends to be skinny, whereas the kind of 60s, 70s variant tended towards the
brassy,
yeah,
Diana Dawes kind of look.
Yeah, why is that? This guy's built like he could play rugby or something, whereas the modern troon is always like super skinny.
Well, you just get more that way, I suppose. You know, sort of more.
Guy. Sorry, go on.
No, okay, you.
Just the guy, I haven't seen him for a while, but Unwashed, Nick Cotton, he made the remark that like a lot of what is called transgender or transsexual now is actually just like from porn. It's just like that people have just watched porn and imitated what they see in that.
What porn is Nick Unwashed watching for that to be?
Well, but I mean, like, especially the people having massive boobs, I guess. I don't know. Yeah.
Oh, like identifying with the women they see in porn. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, but like transgender. People,
I think there probably is something to it. I think there is. I think I've never been against that whole thesis that there's something. I mean, I made a video years ago called talking about the anime thing. They're all into like, you know, you watch enough anime and you start dressing up like the little Japanese girl.
Cosplay cosplay is pornified as well. Like, it wasn't always so, you know, but cosplay has become a thing where just specifically cute-looking girls make themselves look sexy and push their boobs up and stuff. Right?
Who was that big northern comedian? Or I think I don't know if he's northern, but he used to like dress up as a woman and play the piano. He's on TV a lot.
Les Dawson.
Les Dawson. Yeah. That was it.
Yes.
It was the Les Dawson build. This one has got the Les Dawson build.
Well, because a lot of them were nightclub turns, really. You know, people like that, and you know, Danny LaRue as well. They kind of went for the kind of extravagant, glamorous look. So they kind of, if they were guys doing it, I suppose the sort of performative impact would be stronger if they were bigger. You know,
Les Dawson was really funny.
The thing is, though, right? Okay, hands are quite big, but if you didn't know. This one here passes for Ormeau quite well, I would say.
I guessed. I knew before someone said
you knew straight away.
I could tell.
I could tell, but it's the hand. Women
lack of cleavage as well.
Right? Yeah, but what I'm saying is, Jess facially hasn't done terrible job. Pass for a fat woman.
So had this one taken hormones? We don't need to talk about all that. But...
All right, let's go.
Yeah.
People are blaming Lily Savage for the change from the Les Dawson type to the modern troon.
Michael de Freitas had been a gangster. He had worked as an enforcer for the notorious slum landlord.
He was from episode 1.
Yeah.
Fact fans.
Peter Rackman. But now he wanted to be a revolutionary. Then one day he met the American black leader Malcolm X, who was on a tour of England. They began to travel around the country together. When they arrived in Birmingham, the hotel receptionist thought that Michael de Freitas was Malcolm X's brother, and he called him Michael X. De Freitas decided that in the future, this was going to be his revolutionary name, and he was going to lead a revolution in Britain. Michael X soon became famous.
I would hate to be described.
Can I just say something about Malcolm X? I've always thought there are some of the iconic figures. Malcolm X is one of them. Che Guevara is another one. They photoed well, right? If you compare Malcolm X or Che Guevara or several other to
their counterparts, like Castro and Martin Luther King. Yeah.
Well, I was actually thinking compare them to Zach Polanski today. Zach Polanski does not photo well. I can't imagine him becoming iconic in the same way that Malcolm X is iconic. And I think the image is a big part of it. Anyway, go on, Simon.
Yeah. No. I'm just going to be disparaging about Zach Polanski. He looks like a cartoon figure drawn by Lunig or something, you know.
Described as a politician because they're all such liars and thieves. if I'm going to deal in the realms of that type of public.
I would say Greta has grown into being like, I think Greta's flotilla look was quite iconic.
The brave young squire.
She looked like a squire, like a medieval squire or something. But at least it was kind of like she was starting to grow into it, where you could say, "Oh, I can see this person being an icon in the same way that some of those other people are." Whereas I just can't. Like, it doesn't matter how you dress up Zach Polanski, I just can't see him being that. Just doesn't photo well. You know what I mean? Underrated part of being a revolutionary, I reckon. How well do you photo?
Yeah.
Relations, I'd rather think of myself in terms of being a statesman, which is an art that this country has long since forgotten. Like, we have no statesmen today. I'm probably the only one in the country. Unfortunately, we find that the people of pale pigmentation are people who are so barbaric. Like, for instance, right now, this country, which is run by those type of people, have got more weapons of destruction to destroy the entire world, and they're so savage, they're building even more. You see, the British are such a strange people.
Many of Michael X's supporters were the young white radicals who had moved into Notting Hill, into the very houses that he and the gangster Peter Rackman had run 10 years before. Because Michael X was an outsider, the white radicals believed that he could see the system for what it really was. Like all revolutionaries before them, they had tried to appeal to the white working class and get them to rise up against the system. But no one seemed to be interested.
And what we've been talking about here today is the problem of
Pause,
racism.
please. I don't know if you guys might know London better than me, but is Ladbroke Grove and also is Ladbroke Grove quite near this?
And it's near Notting Hill.
Near Notting Hill, isn't it? And what's the other? Is it Villa Road? And there's a couple of roads that were famous for squatting in the 70s. Yeah. Obviously, a bit after this, Villa Road and St Agnes Place are two of them, I think. I don't know if they're near this as well. But I'm just wondering, is this how those squatters? Because those squatters generally were Trotskyists, usually. SWP people. I'm just wondering if this is how they ended up. Like, if it was actually sort of Rackman and De Freitas had a role in that, in sort of making them feel like that was a good place to move to and colonize as squatters. You know, I'm just wondering if it relates to that. I don't know if anyone can answer that.
No, I can answer the question in the chat because they said, "How on earth could they afford Notting Hill?" I mean, I don't know if you want to speak to that, Simon, but it was
go and watch the film. Yeah, go and watch Performance, the film that we've discussed previously on the channel, and have a look at how Notting Hill looked in the mid to late 60s. It was a bit rougher.
Yeah, and so the property prices were cheap then. You'd have been quids in if you bought it then and just held on to it and then sold it like in the middle of Tony Blair or something. You'd have been millionaire.
I mean, Rackman owned sort of around 400 properties, so he would have been quite a blight on the area. He wasn't exactly sort of spending money to do them up or anything like that.
And the problem of the attack by the government and by the employers on working people's conditions.
The radicals decided that this was because...
Yeah, I wonder why shouting at people with a megaphone as they're trying to buy an apple didn't work as a revolutionary strategy. You can imagine these women being like, "What do you want about? I'm just trying to get my dinner. Bugger off."
The ordinary people had been brainwashed by the media and by consumerism and turned into what their theory called one-dimensional creatures, which meant that they were the wrong kind of person to start a revolution with.
Their whole mind is, like a cabbage. They're suppressed. They can't do exactly what they want. They haven't got any freedom. They haven't got any freedom to do exactly what they want under the system. I mean, we certainly do. Well, being able to express yourself in whichever way you feel is right.
I think it's not only the system that's wrong. I think it's the people that's wrong.
There was a book written on Althusser called One Dimensional Marxism. It's a critique, but it is kind of similar kind of idea that these people are so ideologically interpolated that there's no, like, until they have a revolution in the mind, there's just no hope basically the revolution actually happening.
Yeah, it's not unlike when Curtis did Power of Nightmares, and he talked about Sayyid Qutb and the early Islamist radicals identifying this thing called Jahiliyyah, the state of barbarous ignorance, whereby people were just living these kind of reduced, simple, basic lives, and at the same time, that thing there about the people are wrong, that brings back Bertolt Brecht talking about wouldn't it be simpler to dissolve the people and elect another people.
By the way, I think by the time Brecht wrote that line, he was using it mockingly, but he had thought like that before. So would you say Curtis is critical of this general way of seeing things, right? Projecting sort of false consciousness or or bad faith?
Well, this is what Jeremy Gilbert last week was criticizing, that Curtis was looking at the kind of the zany end of the new left at the time, the people who later would go on and blend themselves into the bourgeois classes and become the yippies and the yuppies and escape into therapy and into business. And Gilbert's idea is that there was a sort of stoic part of the left which just carried on working quietly to alleviate conditions, and eventually ended up in things like the GLC and the sort of organized unions and so on.
That's not a threat to the system, comrade. That's the problem.
Yeah.
That would be like, I mean, the thing is, I actually do believe in this idea that these guys are talking about, that it is basically impossible to inculcate the mass revolution as foreseen. Now, partly that's elite theory, partly that's just like the mass never does anything, right? But also there is an extent to which you're just never going to wake up. You're never going to wake up the whole people.
Yeah.
Because there is something to this. What I've talked about, the boomer truth regime, is really a re-articulation of this basic idea, just slightly reframed. It's the same thing, though.
Yeah.
Try taking a boomer and explain to them some of the basic views that you have, and you'll just never. I mean, people have talked about it. They'll just reset by next week. The next news bulletin they watch, they reset. Yeah.
Quite happy to have an interesting conversation about it, but it's just whenever they next watch BBC News, it's just wiped off. It's just gone. Yeah.
And you've got to be careful not to sort of overestimate people's willingness for change. Conversations I've had recently indicate to me that you've got to remember there's a lot of people out there for whom all this stuff we're talking about is absolutely meaningless, and it's even annoying to the point where they are just saying, "I've had enough. I want to go back to Fresh Prince." They kind of know what it feels like, and the mechanisms by which you might subvert that or create some kind of interventions. They're just not interested in it at that level, and that's the mass man.
She just wants to have a dinner and watch EastEnders. Bugger off.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that per se, but the ambitions to then mobilize people into purposive political forces is kind of a bit of a dream.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally a plan that's never going to come off ever. And this is where I keep like, if you're a Marxist, for example, Lenin and Stalin and the Bolsheviks and so on did not actually mobilize the mass. Yeah. They were just a vanguard movement that took over in a power vacuum, and then told all of these sorts of people what they're going to do. If they wouldn't play ball, they killed them. Basically,
that's what marked Lenin out. A good sort of 12, 13, 14 years before the revolution, he realized, no, it's all about creating a revolutionary cell and taking over, a seizure of power. That's what matters. We will then convert as many of the people as we can by whatever means we need to. But yeah.
I mean, that's what I think was good about your film yesterday. And as I tweeted, that the danger is the amount of energy you put in to outrage or a sense of injustice against the system, and as Curtis has identified well, is essentially reinforcing that system's power to lock itself down. So you have to think around the problem. You have to box a bit cleverer. It's not to say that change cannot happen in some ways, but you sort of have to come to peace with the fact that, in a sense, your reflex action to reach out and try and shake or break the system, that isn't going to work. That plays into exactly how it absorbs your energy.
And let's give the devil his due. Let's give Nigel his due, right? what Nigel has always been good at doing is reaching this woman here that we're seeing on the screen.
Yeah.
Right? By literally inserting himself on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, and eating a camel nipple. Oh, he's all right, that Nigel. He'll have a pint. I'll vote for him. That's literally the level it works on. Now, he's not going to be a revolutionary. He's not going to change the system. But he does get through to this level of prole, I guess you'd say. So, anyway, let's carry on.
Interested in working every night for me?
Yes, possibly every night, yes.
Fine. Well, you know, if you do a spot, we'll get around to play. Anything particularly you like to play? Anything, Tom? Would you? Yeah, I feel welcome.
Pause, please.
Go on, Horace.
What that last shot? I said to pause after it had gone off the screen because I found it horrible. But like, why? What? Who took that? What is the? What is the use of that bit of footage?
It's a bit of stock footage of two girls dancing.
Two girls,
post it, isn't it? Yeah. The one on the right, I thought it was a boy, but it's actually two girls.
Okay.
So,
I thought when I first watched this a few years ago, I mean, maybe I was just a bit wound up, but I thought that was Adam Curtis just spitting in our faces, just goading us. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get why that was filmed or why that was used. It's like
it's just.
But I thought it was a bloke. I thought.
Yeah, there's been stock footage on Getty. You know, he did like the dance classes in the school and the modern dance stuff that he used in this documentary that he procured from there. I mean, I think this thing here is a kind of sequence, you know, classic Curtis sequence with a bit of montage and a bit of pumping music, you know, talking about how, you know, the kind of post-war gloom is lifting.
Isn't he also saying though that revolutionary socialism had absolutely no chance whatsoever of cracking this society, but sex and drugs and rock and roll and capitalism did absolutely bust it wide open?
Yeah, you've got the great sort of, you know, the sequence like with the go-go dancer there in the. I mean, I think that's fantastic because those gangsters, they're kind of like guys out of Performance, aren't they? Just that sinister way they're sort of the wide boys of the late '60s kind of dressed, and then you've got the sequence with the pigeon, and you've got this sense of, you know, exuberance and freedom, you know. But as you say, the people are being mollified with, you know, sex and consumption, and then you've got that great song "Where Were You" by the Mekons, who went to school with Adam Curtis. So, you know, everything's kind of reduced to a kind of libidinal commerce at this point, and again, that distracts from the idea of the revolution coming on, brothers.
After making a speech in Reading, Michael X was arrested, and he was sent to prison for 10 months for inciting racial hatred. The MP, Enoch Powell, had also made a speech at the same time, violently attacking immigrants. He wasn't charged, and he carried on being an MP.
Pause.
Which Michael X said
Go on, Simon. Yeah,
sorry, can I just say, I looked at Powell's speeches from that period. I couldn't find one where he's violently attacking immigrants. So I'll say that's a demerit point against Curtis. There's a couple of speeches he makes in 1967, which is the period he's talking about here. It's not the Rivers of Blood speech he's talking about. He's talking about 1967 specifically. And there's only a couple of speeches Powell gives. One is called Facing Up to Britain's Race Problem, which was also published in the Telegraph in February 67. And the other one was a speech to some marketing board somewhere in the Midlands, I think, or something. So not relevant to this. But again, you don't get with Powell. He's too elegant a thinker and a speaker to be you're giving you kind of low IQ bigotry.
Whereas Michael X was fed posting on Maine.
Exactly. Yeah.
And also he was kicked out of the Tory party. Powell was. So let's not forget that.
Yeah. So
was he booted out? He was booted out of the shadow cabinet, was he? It's actually because he called for people to vote Labour, didn't he, in that 72 election?
He was expelled by Ted Heath in 68.
That is in 68.
Yeah, in the height of it in 68, after Rivers of Blood speech, he was kicked out of the party by Ted Heath. And he became an Ulster Unionist.
Yeah.
I thought he was booted out a few years later for saying people should vote for Labour because Edward Heath was going to
I thought Powell was booted out there and then in 68.
He was booted out of his shadow.
I think it was
cabinet
pretty soon after, yeah.
Let's have a look.
Right. Wow.
So
Edward Heath is even bigger piece of shit than I thought.
We have to get this right now. Hold on a minute. He was just,
but so Michael de Freitas was actually probably just calling for like violent crimes.
Gallup poll in 69 showed Powell to be the most admired person in British public opinion. General election happened in 1970. It was beyond dispute that Powell would have become the PM if he'd run. Basically, Powell was anti-EEC in 1970. When was he actually kicked out of the Tory party, though? Anyone? It's not actually that obvious from here.
I reckon 72. I don't know. Sorry, I've been looking.
We should know this. We really shouldn't we? You're
probably right.
Maybe it wasn't straight away. Let's have a look.
Well, I thought it was that he was removed from he was dismissed from the Conservative Party shadow cabinet in 68 after the speech. That's what I was thinking of.
Okay. Yeah. But when was he actually expelled from the Tory party itself?
No, don't know about that.
It looks like he was MP for Wolverhampton South West for the Tories up till February 74, and then an MP.
And then he switched to Union. Okay, right. Okay.
Later that year.
Right. Was that over Europe then, or what was?
I think it was to do with Northern Ireland. I think it was. Right. I think whatever the Tories were going to do to Northern Ireland, he considered a lot worse than what the Labour would do. I think that's right. Sorry, I didn't mean to sidetrack us too much.
Oh, he was never formally expelled from the Conservative Party, but it was that removal from the shadow cabinet in 68 that is the thing that I think we're remembering.
When he should have been made, where there was a very clear argument for him being made leader at that time.
He stayed as an MP until 74 as a Tory MP.
Got it. Okay.
Oh, sorry. It was over. It was about the racism. Sorry, it was over joining the EU, right? So, yeah, the Labour Party, like, there would at least be some debate and maybe a referendum over Europe, whereas under Heath there was just unilaterally joining. I think that was it. Because Powell and also Tony Benn, they believed in the supremacy of Parliament. Well, the supremacy of Parliament was the sort of principle for a long time, and they wanted to maintain that because they thought that was democratic. I think that's what it was. And
that's where you get all those appearances of Powell and Tony Benn together in the 70s because they were both anti-EEC.
Well, yeah, although Benn refused to sit on a platform with him. But yeah, they were part of the same sort of groups. They were part of the anti-EEC campaign. In that referendum of 75, they were on the same side, but Benn wouldn't be seen with Powell.
With them together, okay, all right.
Yeah, although I think they may have talked in private, I don't know. But, there's a famous clip of there's Powell speaking to a bunch of students, I think that was in 70, somewhere between 70 to 74, and someone shouts out, "Judas! that's because he's saying he's going to vote for the Labour candidate in his area.
Right.
Powell said that, and then Powell comes back with, Judas was paid. I'm making a sacrifice. But yeah, I think that was why he was called Judas.
I'm sure I saw those two talking to each other on some bit of footage, Powell and Ben. Maybe they were debating each other or something, but I'm sure I've seen. I'll see if I can find that. But anyway, let's carry on.
There are debates on YouTube, and some of them are really high quality because people back then were fucking brainy and knew their briefs, didn't they?
Underlying the country.
See, look, they had actual politics then. Now we've just got, Musk retweeted me. Do you know what I mean? It's a very big difference, I think. And this is one of the things I think about quite a lot, Simon. It's like so much of the politics now is virtual, whereas this politics was visceral and real, and still, fuck all happened. Nothing changed at all.
Yeah, and somebody in the chat has said something I was thinking as well. Curtis confuses riots with revolutions. I mean, there was civil unrest. There weren't revolutions proper in the sense that we're talking about them as circulations of elites.
Certainly no one's going to tell you not to think what you honestly believe, but I think maybe you should re-examine a little bit the things that you believe, huh? Think about it.
In the Cold War, the very idea of the individual and how the individual's self worked had become political, because it was what defined the United States against the collective ideology of Russia.
I think maybe you should re-examine a little bit the things that you believe, huh?
What concerned many psychologists, though, was that the Second World War had revealed how frightening and deceptive human beings could be. Particularly in Nazi Germany, where ordinary people who had apparently been good citizens had indulged in the most terrible horrors. And psychologists started to examine what really went on inside people's minds, trying to find ways of bypassing the conscious explanations that humans gave, because those explanations could be deceptive. They wanted to find a way of getting directly at what was going on inside the brain. One of the key figures was a psychologist called Dr. Eckhard Hess. He had begun his career recording and analysing animal behaviour on film. Now he did the same with human beings. Dr. Hess had discovered that the pupils in the eyes of individuals reacted dramatically when they were shown different kinds of images.
This is literally Clockwork Orange, Simon.
Yeah. he's leading up to talking about B.F. Skinner essentially later on, but that was the allusion to the pigeons visually as well earlier on, because I think they started looking at pigeon behavior as a model for study.
The changes had nothing to do with the changes in the light. They came from within the human being. And Dr. Hess believed that they gave you a way of seeing the hidden emotional responses that were going on inside the mind. Feelings that the individual might not want to tell you about, or even be aware of. You were looking directly at the brain.
Really, since the eye is very, very intimately a part of the brain, embryologically and anatomically, it is almost the same as though there were a piece of the brain sticking out, behaving, and all the world is there to be able to see it. And if that's so, what ought to be reflected or mirrored in the eye is really the behavior of the brain.
Jiang Qing was now the most powerful woman in the world. She was in charge of giant cohorts of Red Guards that she guided and told who to attack and destroy. High-up members of the Communist Party were seized and paraded in front of tens of thousands of screaming people and forced to confess to thought crimes against the revolution. If they didn't, they were beaten and killed.
It's going to be MAGA in a few years, guys.
Well, who will be hauled up on stage for the crimes of
John Bolton?
Excellent.
What's his name? That Brennan.
Oh, lovely.
And yeah, it's going to be amazing.
Real scumbags.
But in reality, Jiang Qing had lost control. The revolution had never really changed the structure of power in China. And what she and Mao Zedong had unleashed was a vast anger and resentment against the elites that was now bursting out and overwhelming the country. In Beijing, there were mass killings, with bodies being thrown down wells or into communal burial pits. In Shanghai, hundreds of those targeted by the Red Guards committed suicide.
Pause, please. I haven't looked it up, but I think the Cultural Revolution claimed another like several million lives in this kind of stuff. Just like pretty unpredictable, mad stuff. You know, just
it's all very dark stuff, isn't it?
And again, the kicker line there is that thing that Curtis says about, but basically the revolution hadn't changed the fundamental structure of power.
Yeah, elite theory clanging back into the scene, you know.
The undefeatable end boss elite theory cannot be defeated.
Yeah,
because you're literally up against logic. That's the trouble. The organized minority against the disorganized mass. You can never win. Never win the battle. So maybe that's the best you can hope for. Or maybe I'll just maybe we should just stop all of this and just play Crusader Kings 3 forever.
You play 3?
I haven't played it yet, but there's a new. I'm thinking of playing it soon. I've got all the bells and whistles. I've got all of the brand new expansion. I've never still haven't played it at all. I'm worried that if I play it, I'll never do anything else. So
it's been out 5 years now, right? But like I played CK2 probably more than any other game I've ever played. But apparently CK3 they made it too easy. And,
well, this is the thing with these things. You have to wait. Like when it comes to big games, I recommended the time to play Civilization 6 was on the release of Civilization 7 because it takes about 5-10 years for them to come into their own. Do you know what I mean?
That's when I started playing Civ 6.
Yeah, and Civ 6 is good. Civ 6 is good now. It was shit on release, but it's good now. Right?
Same with Civ 5.
And same with Civ. Everybody was a Civ 4 loyalist until Civ 6 came out, and then it was Civ 5. And so I'm thinking maybe after like literally 5 years of development and DLCs, Crusader Kings 3 may approach being as good as Crusader Kings 2 now. So I'm thinking of making the transition. I mean, it's a big thing, you know.
But Crusader Kings 2 was good on release. That's the thing. It got better and better with the DLCs, but it already was really good fun. So they really did do a banger. CK2 is an all-time great game.
But what we're talking about, Horace, is retreating into playing video games to hide from the raw evil of politics that we're watching here, which is literally horrifying, to be fair. So
But Jiang Qing had become...
See, the guy in the chat saying Civ 5 is peak Civ, anything after is heresy. That was the line on Civ 4 for literally about 10 years until suddenly the science changed and then it became Civ 5. And eventually it will be Civ, people will be saying that about Civ 6. It just takes a long time in the world of grand strategy. Yeah.
Civ 5 with the DLCs and all patches really was an excellent game. It became an excellent game, but on release it was lame. But yeah, it is arguably as good as Civ 4 with all the updates. But again, Civ 4 was great on release. It didn't need it. So that is the mark of a better base game.
I like I like the way the terrain is more strategic in Civ 6. Anyway, let's go.
Become famous in the West. A feminist writer from America called Roxanne Whitaker came to Beijing to interview her. But as she talked to Jiang Qing, Whitaker began to realize that something else was also going on. That Jiang Qing was using her new power to avenge herself on all those who had dismissed her or patronized her in the past. Jiang Qing also had a demon inside her.
One of the main themes of her life was avenging herself against men who wronged her, politically mainly, when she was in her 20s. And she did not strike back against them until the time of the Cultural Revolution, some 20 years later. They still had refused to give her access to the masses and to allow her to work. And she finally destroyed them. Wow. They were removed from their posts. They were humiliated before the people. Placards were put up over their chests. They were dragged before the masses. They were humiliated. They were destroyed.
It's like literally a nightmare come true. Can you imagine being one of those guys hauled before the masses? Horrible, horrible situation.
Jiang Qing also turned on everyone who in Shanghai in the 1930s had held her film career back. Studio heads, directors and journalists were dismissed and beaten up. But the worst was saved for the film star Li Lili. They had starred together in Bloodshed on Wolf Mountain. Jiang Qing had always believed that Li Lili had deliberately upstaged her. Now, Li Lili and her husband were...
Who was that woman who was like fired from Star Wars for not being woke? Can you imagine she goes on like a 20-year crusade and then the woke Disney boss and humiliates her in front of the masses and you know, what's her name?
Gina Carano.
Gina Carano gets like Daisy Ridley, you know, hauled out in front of the masses with a placard saying, "I'm sorry for being for trans rights."
Seized by Red Guards. Jiang Qing ordered them to be tortured. Li Lili survived, but her husband couldn't bear it, and he committed suicide.
We have warned every person in the world not to visit Palestine, because Palestine is not a tourist attraction. It's a battlefield, and it is our land. Anybody who gets killed or injured in Palestine would be carrying his own responsibility.
Horst Mahler and a group of other German revolutionaries secretly went to a Palestinian training camp in Jordan. They had decided to train in urban guerrilla warfare.
Still trying to picture the scene, like the promo Gina Carano's cutting on Daisy Ridley, you know. Who's the Mary Sue now, Daisy?
For people asking in the chat, that character wasn't Sacha Baron Cohen. That was Bassem Abu Sharif. He was a spokesman for the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, also called the Face of Terror by Time magazine.
Just a little arcana about them. On September 11th, I think it was the same day, maybe the next morning, I picked up a newspaper. It must have been the next morning because it was a newspaper, I think. I looked it up. I picked up the newspaper and they said the chief suspect at the moment, I don't know, according to who, I can't remember, the chief suspect for having blown up the Twin Towers was the PFLP. That was the story for the first 24 hours. And there was already, I think, on the day, big people, like one or two people, like maybe like Ehud Barak or something, beginning to mention Osama bin Laden as though prepared to do so. But I know this channel officially agrees with the story of that. But yeah, the newspaper, I think it was the Daily Mirror the next morning, was saying the PFLP.
Picture J.K. Rowling on a massive throne, flanked by Julia Hartley-Brewer and Graham Linehan, right? And you've got Harry Potter, Ron Weasley, and old Hermione, right? Lined up. What's her name? Emma Watson, right?
Yeah,
with placards on, right?
Chains.
With Rowling smoking one of her little cigars, bellowing out to the crowd of gammons below.
Yeah.
Repent, Hermione. Say you're sorry. Take it back about the trans. The crowd are just going crazy. Watson reduced to tears. I'm sorry, JK. Go on, we can make it with AI. Make it.
But things didn't go well from the very start. One of the leaders of the group, Andreas Baader, insisted on having mixed sleeping quarters. Then the female members of the group started to sunbathe on the roof. The commander of the camp told them to stop. Baader argued with him. The anti-imperialist struggle and sexual emancipation, he said, must go hand in hand. The commander refused. Baader put it more bluntly. Fucking and shooting, he said, are the same thing. Then Horst Mahler found that the Fedayeen fighters in the camp had brought in pictures of Hitler. They pointed at them and said, "Good man," because he had killed the Jews. That was very hard for us, Mahler later said, because we had a feeling of guilt about the Jews. We were very upset. In the end, the Germans went on strike because they weren't being given enough bullets each day to shoot with.
Is this the guy who later became a neo-Nazi, Simon, who's saying this?
Horst Mahler is the witness there that is just giving the testimony, but this is described in his, I think it's his book about Baader-Meinhof, and it's dramatized in the film The Baader-Meinhof Complex, if you want to go away and look at that, this sort of famous moment where they're all the girls are sunbathing nude on the roof, and the Palestinian fighters see them, and the commander says, you can't do this sort of thing, and he tells them, effing and shooting are the same thing. Get lost,
So the commander stormed their house and threw them out. They came back to West Germany, helped by the East German Stasi, who saw it as a way of destabilizing the West. And the revolutionaries set out to use their training to force the West German state to reveal its true fascist face. Afeni Shakur was now a full-time member of the Black Panther chapter in New York. She was certain that the only solution in America was
Looks nice. New York, lovely as ever.
Violent uprising. And she spent her time writing poems calling for revolution.
Do you know what I mean, though? Gritty, grimy, dirty New York, in a way, is better than the cleaned up version, isn't it?
I bet you put on films like The Warriors for relaxation.
I fucking love it.
Just enjoy the filthy
I love it, but again,
subway.
my love of it is already postmodern because I love it for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Because as fellow Xennial Horus who grew up playing Final Fight and Street Fighter, it was always set in, it was always those sort of settings, the graffitied subway and the kind of the burning bin and all those sorts of things.
Chain link fences, someone just climbing up a chain link fence and diving off it and stuff.
Yeah, a homeless guy with those half gloves warming up his hands on the burning bin. No, that's the New York I love.
Smashing a trash can into someone's face.
Listen, listen. You've got this dark side, but Adam knows the real you.
He's like this sort of curmudgeonly, slightly cruel Persian mage, locked in a lodge in Surrey, smoking endless Partagas cigars and upsetting the online right. But I know this other side of him, where we meet at the Yummy Mummy Cafe and sip artisanal lattes while listening to Andrea Van Kampen songs.
Oh, the Andrea Van Kampen reference. Wow.
There you go.
Wow. Do you know, I got a bit revolutionary in the Yummy Mummy Cafe the other day. I didn't have my favorites on. It had the male. Sometimes they have a male crew in, but they're young guys. And I had my copy of Jacques Ellul's Autopsy of Revolution on me, which has got a raised fist in the front.
Yeah.
And the guy behind the thing, he said, "Oh, that looks like an interesting book." And I said, "Yeah, it is interesting." And then I said, as I was walking out, all right, I got my grounds for the hot bin, right, because of my ongoing deal with them. So he was kind of walking with me back to my car. And I said, I've been thinking recently about productive and unproductive labor, which is a distinction that Marxist economists make. And one of the debates in the literature is whether a barista is productive labor or unproductive labor. And I said, you should think about that for the rest of your shift. And he was like, yeah, that is really interesting. So I wonder if you're listening, barista from the Yummy Mummy Cafe, let me know your answer. Are you doing productive or unproductive bourgeois work?
Slipping in the BS jobs thesis. Yeah.
But the problem was that she and many of the others in her cell didn't know what to do to make this happen. They watched enviously as other Black Panthers on the West Coast fought running battles with the police and the military.
All we have to say is all power to the people, and you can jail a revolutionary, but you sure can't jail a revolution. Baby, you're going to have some dealing to do.
Yeah, I realized NYC was rough between 1975 and 1981, David read. Right, but I'm not advocating living in 70s New York. I'm appreciating the aesthetics from it. They make particularly good backdrops for dark synth.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of lens I'm looking at it through. It's kind of aesthetically more pleasing than cleaned up corporate post-Giuliani New York of a few years ago. I don't know what New York is like now. Apparently it's gone shit again after COVID. That's the last I heard. But
niggas ain't gonna stop until they either get freedom or destroy everything that they run across.
The question of who to attack in New York got more and more complicated. Some of the Panthers argued that they should target the ruthless landlords who made them live in rotting apartments, and the bankers who refused to lend blacks money, so they could never escape from the slums. These, they said, were the agents of imperialist control. But
see, that doesn't look like Sesame Street. When we were growing up watching Sesame Street was always much nicer, and it was like a guy in dungarees doing carpentry and talking to Elmo.
In New York, the majority of landlords and bankers were Jewish.
And we are being exploited by people who do not live in our...
Whoa, I didn't think Curtis was going to go there.
...colonies, you see, or in our communities, who come into our communities and exploit us every day. You see, and they take the money back to their community. So this is like colonial imperialism in our content, you see. And the people who exploit us in our communities, particularly in New York City, are Zionist Jews.
Oh, I was surprised. I thought we were gearing up for a Trump appearance, Simon. I was kind of surprised where that went.
And on that bombshell,
Afeni Shakur's group came up with a plan. They were going to plant bombs in big department stores like Macy's. And they would also bomb the Bronx Botanical Gardens and attack local police stations. But as they developed the plan, Afeni Shakur began to worry. She didn't want to kill civilians. and she felt they were being bullied into it by one of their group. He was one of the founder members of the cell, whose revolutionary name was Yedwa Sudan. And Afeni Shakur started to be suspicious. She wondered if he might really be an undercover policeman.
She thought he was a Fed. It's like, why? Hold on a second. Your plan is you want to kill normal people in Macy's. I'm not surprised she was again suspicious, to be honest.
Shakur told another member of the group about her suspicions, who then went and confronted Yedwa Sudan. Sudan immediately pulled out a gun, fired 2 bullets into the table in front of him, and denied it. He said that Afeni Shakur was just being a typical emotional woman. And the group believed him, not her.
Oh, bloody hell. Okay, well, maybe we should stop it here, 37 minutes in, because we've got a couple of weeks off, haven't we, Simon? Because you're.
I'm afraid so. I'm not going to be effectively back in action till the 5th of December.
5th of December, okay.
It's going to be a little while.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I don't know if we'll do the Christmas ads early, but I know Pharaoh likes to do the Christmas ads every year. Maybe we could do 1 week doing the Christmas ads. But the Curtis review has reached a point where it's basically undoable without Simon at this point. He's like he's made himself an indispensable part, like a kind of deepest little Roy Keane.
I'll just drop what Adam has got to say about the Curtis Christmas ads. Where is he?
Christmas ad stream, because the content is just so dark and revealing about who we really are, i.e. a lot of 30-something BPD women whose lives of lonely materialism and crushed hopes can only be fixed by scoffing a Yule log from Sainsbury's.
I do usually scoff a Yule log from Sainsbury's for Christmas, but not all in one go. I will say that. Spread it over a few days.
Do you remember? Nobody will remember this from last year's stream. My thesis that the most honest ad was made by Sports Direct, that it actually showed Britain as it really was, that real Britain is not Dawn French having her multicultural party. It is literally the grimy, horrible urban youth of Sports Direct. Or is it JD Sports? All right. There have been a couple of super chats while we've been on. Port Film Co-op says, "Hello, AA. I would like to debate you on Madonna. I'm not even a big fan. It's just that most of your arguments and comparisons are weak, and we should be more objective about her oeuvre. Name the time and the place, and I'll be there." Port Film Co-op getting feisty. I have to think about that because I'm not big on debates, as people know. So I have to think about whether I'm going to take this challenge up. Then again, my hatred for Madonna burns brightly. So, and AAA now knows that there is a person called Madonna because, on the Alexa, I sometimes say, play my playlist 80s bangers better than Madonna because she loves it. She loves the playlist.
You gave it away.
But she's like, "Who's Madonna?"
Oh.
And I so far I said, "Oh, that's nothing to worry about. Maybe when you're older." But you see, that is, that is a red rag to a bull.
Innocence broken. Arcadia interrupted.
So she's aware.
AAA polluted
of the existence of Madonna now, but she has yet to kind of insist on listening to Madonna. So maybe I can keep. Maybe I was kind of proud of her because we were in a shopping mall when I was back in Wales, and Simple Minds came on, and it was that song, the Miracle one. Did it? It's got that banging synth riff.
Waiting for a Miracle, was it?
Waiting for the Miracles. Something like a Miracle. What's that Miracle song? Miracle, Simple Minds. But it's
Promised You a Miracle.
Promised You a Miracle. Promised You a Miracle. Great song. and she came running up excitedly, and she said, "Daddy, Daddy, it's from the 80s playlist. It's from the 80s playlist," because she recognized the song in the shop. A little bit of fakery from AAA, because she typically says, "I don't like this one, please skip it," when it comes on. Yet she still recognized it enough to be excited in the shop.
Warm familiarity, yeah.
AJ98 says, nomination for 80s bangers, Prince of Darkness theme by John Carpenter. Dun dun dun. Mr. Rafferty says, Andrew Hinkle is hot. So, who is Andrew Hinkle? Is that
Jackson Hinkle?
No, Andrew Hinkle. Who is Andrew? Is that like Jackson Hinkle's hotter brother or something?
Dark brother.
I don't know. It's not yielding any results when I look as to who he is. So Cameron Kirby says 1, Hail Mary, 2, Changes, 3, Get a Gospel. I get that's his favorite. That's his favorite songs from Tupac. Gazo says, any advice to those of us who are still wedded to the electoral process? No.
Gonna face disappointment.
vote Corbyn for revolutionary change. And in defiance, one of the things I'm really interested in at the moment is why are Ash Sakar and Aaron Bastani clearly going for fake Fed-backed, state-backed Polanski over Corbyn and Sultana. In fact, I called out Ash Sakar directly on this earlier on, because they're putting like Corbyn under a lot of legal action and so on. And I mean, to me, the natural reaction to that is the system don't want, right? The system don't want Corbyn. They want Polanski, right? But Ash Sakar's reaction is, quote, Ash Sakar, right? In fact, I'll show the quote. I'll show the tweet. This has made me suspicious of Ash. Since mid-September, there have been at least 3 legal threats of action lobbed in various directions between your party's founders. Aside from anything else, who's going to see that and think, yep, this looks like an organization which I want to devote my precious and limited time to? So far, your party has managed to recreate all the factional viciousness and purple nurples of the Labour Party, but none of the scale. It ain't a great sell. They could turn it around, but difficult to see how that happens with the various personalities involved. Ash, are you working for the state? That's my question, because it's obvious that they're trying to take Corbyn and Sultana out. They don't want that. And Polanski is the kind of containment option. So what is Sakar up to? What are you up to, Bastani? That's my question.
What did they promise you?
Like, they clearly are. I don't know. They know themselves to be basically in the castle, defending from us lot outside. They are.
It's time to put Magic Grandad to sleep.
I don't buy this Polanski push at all. I smell a rat, personally.
No, I think your suspicions there are right, both about him and about Novara. They fundamentally know themselves to be with the establishment. It's peculiar, but they do.
Weird. Okay. Although, I mean, maybe they're thinking, well, maybe you could legitimately say, look, the Corbyn thing is a shit show, right? But there are other tells. Okay, let me give you the other tells. Owen Jones is not going for Magic Grandpa this time. He's going for Polanski. Why? Not very comradely, Owen. But the biggest tell for me, Simon, is clear state asset Paul Mason.
Okay.
Paul Mason is an absolute piece of shit, as anybody knows, right?
Oh yeah.
And like he's going for the Greens over Comrade Corbyn. Why is that then?
Has anyone nailed down where Gary's economics is?
Well, he's close to Novara. He generally has this. Yeah, he usually has the same view as Novara on anything.
So
Novara made him famous as though tasked to do so. They were the first people to promote Gary Stevenson before like Waterstones or whatever.
Have you watched his recent interview with what's his name? That other guy, left wing guy, big what's his name? I can't remember his name now.
Big John.
No. Oh, someone in the channel though. Jimmy the Giant. Jimmy the Giant.
Oh God, he's worse than Gary Stevenson.
Exactly. I'm just curious.
He's a moron. Gary Stevenson's not actually that thick. He's wrong, but he's not like a dimwit. But that Jimmy the Giant is an idiot.
What does Gary say?
Gary Economics is not only he's been interviewing Zach Polanski.
Wow.
Right.
Oh no.
Yes, this is a state operation. Basically, it might be done in quite a subtle way, but it is, right? I'll give you another thing against Novara, or for the idea that Novara worked with the state. When Jeremy Corbyn was kind of got rid of in a process that took 5 years, the whole time he was leader, right? They were trying to get rid of him before he got elected, actually. Dan Hodges seems to have been tasked with that. He started it off, right? The idea that Corbyn's a dangerous anti-Semite and a supporter of Hamas and terrorists and stuff. Not that it's all untrue. But Novara Media never staunchly... Well, they were basically in the Corbyn camp because that was the only thing left of the leadership of the Labour Party at the time, right? But when it came to how on earth this came about, but like it's because Corbyn himself is quite thick, but the hands of who would be Labour leader effectively fell into... the question of who would be Labour leader effectively fell into the hands of the Equality and Human Rights Commission, because they did these, I think twice, they did these reports like ruling on whether he's an anti-Semite. It shouldn't actually constitute such a verdict. You know, it's far more limited, really, what they're examining. But the left collectively did take that as authoritative on the question of whether Corbyn's an anti-Semite and whether he's acceptable. And when they ruled against him, Novara silently and meekly went along with it and just treated it as an authority, just treated that as the decider for the left on what the left believes. It's amazing. And they fucking went along with it, and they helped get rid of him. So did Owen Jones. Owen Jones and Hope Not Hate. They all helped get rid of Corbyn. They all put a boot in here and there. Owen Jones sort of betrayed him at key moments on the question of anti-Semitism, what constitutes anti-Semitism. So did that John Landsman even. He even began to pull away from Corbyn a bit.
Interesting.
And Galloway, maybe. I can't remember. But yeah, like maybe not Galloway. But yeah, all those guys, they fundamentally, it's not necessarily they're all recruits or agents, but they know what side they need to stick to for, I don't know, to hold the left together in a way.
I will say that Gary Economics has done one base thing, which is about 6 months ago, he talked to his, quote, favorite economist, Ha-Joon Chang. Ha-Joon Chang is an interesting economist, to be fair. So, but anyway,
doesn't Mike Imperium like Ha-Joon Chang? I think
a lot of people, a lot of people on the right like Ha-Joon Chang as well.
I don't. I'm on the real right, I don't.
That's not a surprise, you know. And I think,
but Aaron Bastani does, by the way. He's promoted him in the past. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, hard. He's got. I mean, some of his conclusions are difficult to escape. Chang.
Because they're so bland.
Well, I mean, basically, what he's talking about is state-backed protectionism to catch up, which is something that Murray Rothbard disputes in one of his books, but it's hard to argue the rise of China.
You're a Buchananite. You're a Patrick Buchananite. That's all right. It's a good thing.
All right. Well, that is. I think that's. Unless I missed something, that is it for the super chats. Enjoy your Australia trip, Simon.
Thank you very much. I'll be back in December.
Share pictures of you barbecuing prawns.
I'm actually thinking of not taking my phone at all and just switching off.
That's a great idea.
If you stay too long, you remember you start going native and you start calling us POMs and stuff. And,
wearing a cool hat.
Listening only to Australian bands and stuff.
Yep. Hopefully, I may catch up with our friend, the Pastor Aussie, out there. And
what about Chris Gard? Are you in touch with him at all?
And sup fun. He's in Queensland, at the other side of the country.
Oh, right.
So unless he's coming to the Western Australia,
that's quite a distance, isn't it?
And it's quite a sticky, hot climate up where Chris is. Even worse than Western Australia,
especially if you're up on the roof.
Absolutely, I don't know how he works on the roof. I mean, God, he must. That subtropical climate is harsh as anything. But yeah,
imagine if he really does go native and comes back like playing a didgeridoo. And,
how long is the flight, Simon?
It's going to be about 24 hours. Yeah, sort of stop over for an hour or two. Singapore. Not fun. I don't like it. I don't really like traveling.
Well, have a good trip, Simon. Anything you want to promote before we get out of here?
I'll just ask Adam to.
What goes on in this town is none of your business. As long as I'm living here, it is. Then maybe you shouldn't be living here. Well, that's easily fixed. What goes on in this town is none of your business.
Shut up, Adam.
Next week, can you get him also to go the deepest law?
I might. Yeah, don't ask me to make him say anything spicy. It's not going to happen. I think AI voices are an area where we have to think about libel laws.
And you, Horace, anything you want to promote?
Yeah, well, my channel is linked below the video. I did a stream a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to do a follow-up to that, but I'm not going to be ready to do that for another couple of weeks, I don't think. So, yeah, thanks, everyone. Enjoying
your time back on YouTube?
Yeah, got good views on that as well.
Fantastic. And I will be, I think I've got a video tomorrow, is it? What's my video tomorrow? Oh, yeah, my thing about the lighthouses. My Lighthouse Keeper video is coming out tomorrow. So watch that, pick up a course, pick up Applied Elite Theory, my new book, available in all good stores. And yeah, we'll I don't know when Deepest Law will be back, but enjoy your trip, Simon.
Thank you very much. Look forward to coming back.
What goes on in this town is none of your business.
As long as I'm living here, it is.
Then maybe you shouldn't be living here!
Well, that's easily fixed.